Chapter 1982. You seem to think that you have us for sure. Ningyu looked at the demon god's son, still looking calm and collected. Although the demon god's son had the power of 6 great paths, Ningyu was not very afraid. After all, he also had the power of 6 great paths. I will deal with Ningyu. You two deal with the others. The demon god's son held the demon god gourd tightly and stepped forward. Don't. We already agreed that we will deal with Ningyu and Jiaorui, so you just stay here and watch. God sons He and Wu hurriedly said. They did not want the demon god's son to make a move. From their point of view, once the demon god's son made a move, Ningyu and Jiaorui would definitely fall into his hands. This situation was clearly not what they wanted to see. Alright, since you two want to make a move, then make a move. I will watch from here. The demon god's son shrugged and took a few steps back. Godsons He and Wu could not see how many great paths Ningyu had, but the demon god's son could see it clearly. 6 great paths. The great paths on Ningyu's body were the same as his. They both had 6 great paths. The demon god's son's original plan was for him to stall Ningyu and let godsons He and Wu deal with Jiaorui and the old man beside Ningyu. However, since godsons He and Wu did not trust him, there was no need for him to get involved in this mess. Swish. Swish. As soon as the demon god's son finished speaking, godsons He and Wu rushed towards Ningyu and Jiaorui in a flash. The two of them had a clear division of labor. Among them, godson Wu would deal with Ningyu, while godson He would deal with Jiaorui. As for the human demon at the side, he was ignored by them. The human demon did not have the aura of a great path, so there was no need for them to worry. Jiaorui, do you have the confidence to deal with the two of them? Ningyu turned to look at Jiaorui and asked as he watched godson He and godson Wu, who were charging towards him. In fact, Ningyu did not want to fight godsons He and Wu. Because his attention was completely on the demon god's son, although the demon god's son had not attacked him yet, he had to be on his guard. The demon god's son had 6 great paths and was extremely powerful. It's easy for me to kill them. Jiaorui's spirit body not only cultivated quickly, but was also known as invincible. Not only did the solitary spirit body cultivate extremely quickly, but it was also known to be invincible among those of the same cultivation level. Moreover, Jiaorui fighting against godchild He and godchild Wu was not a battle between people of the same level. When she advanced to the peak of half-step heavenly immortal stage, Jiaorui had 2 grand Tao energies. In addition to the 3 great path powers that she had devoured from ancient god, Jiaorui now had a total of 5 great path powers, only 1 less than Ningyu. This was because both god He and god Wu only had 4 great path powers in their bodies. Under such circumstances, how could godson He and godson Wu be a match for Jiaorui? Die. Before godson He reached Ningyu, Jiaorui took a step forward and punched with her right hand. Jiaorui's punch contained the power of 4 great Daos. Hold back. Jiaorui did not need to use her full strength against godson He. What she needed to do now was to hide her strength as much as possible while ensuring that she could kill godson He. After all, her real opponent was the demon god's son and not godson He. You also have 4 great paths. Feeling the 4 great paths in Jiaorui's fist, godson His eyes widened and his face was full of disbelief. Although he knew Jiaorui had great paths, he did not know how many. In his opinion, no matter how strong Jiaorui was, she would only have 1 or 2 great paths. But the current situation was completely out of his expectations. Let's attack together. In a moment of desperation, godson He shouted at godson Wu, who was beside him. Their original plan was for him to deal with Jiaorui and godson Wu to deal with Ningyu. Now that Jiaorui had displayed 4 great paths, godson He would definitely ask godson Wu to help. Because godson He knew very well that he could not capture Jiaorui with his own strength. He knew very well how terrifying a single spirit body was. Damn it. I'll spare your life for now. Godson He knew how powerful Jiaorui was, and so did godson Wu. Therefore, godson Wu first cursed at Ningyu and then went to deal with Jiaorui together with godson He. Rumble. The shockwaves from the fight between the 3 pinnacle powerhouses spread in all directions. Luckily, Ningyu blocked the shockwaves for the human demon at the critical moment. Otherwise, with the human demon's current strength, he would not have been able to withstand it. Zhao Rui is a big problem. On the other side, the demon god frowned slightly and thought to himself. As the peerless god son of the demon's restaurant and a terrifying existence with 6 great paths, the demon god could naturally tell that Zhao Rui had not used her full strength. However, even though the demon god could tell that Zhao Rui had not used her full strength, he did not know how strong Zhao Rui was. Under such circumstances, the demon god even wanted to help God's son He and the others and force Zhao Rui to use her full strength. Forget it. However, when the demonic god's son's gaze landed on Ningyu, his thoughts immediately vanished. No matter how strong Zhao Rui was, she could not be stronger than Ningyu. Therefore, his main target was Ningyu, not Zhao Rui. Rumble. In mid-air, Zhao Rui had already started fighting with God's son He and the others. Even though she had not used her full strength, Zhao Rui still had the absolute upper hand. It was only a matter of time before she killed God's son He and God's son Wu. Oh right, senior human demon, you should have been a mid-stage sky immortal before, right? How much great path power do you have? While Zhao Rui was still fighting with God's son Wu and the others, Ningyu had already started talking with the human demon. Anyway, it was only a matter of time before God's son Wu and the others were killed, so Ningyu did not have to worry at all. At this time, Ningyu was talking with the human demon to make the demon god lower his guard. After all, the black gourd in the demon god's hand made Ningyu's heart palpitate. The weakest mid-stage sky immortal martial artist has about 100 great path power, the human demon explained. At that time, I had 500 great path power and was ranked in the middle among the mid-stage sky immortal martial artists. 500 great path power can only be ranked in the middle? Ningyu's expression couldn't help but become solemn. After thinking about it, Ningyu looked at the demon god gourd in the demon god's hand and asked the human demon, "Is that gourd in the demon god's hand a sky immortal grade Dharma treasure?" It should be an early stage sky immortal grade Dharma treasure. It was once nourished by an early stage sky immortal martial artist. Chapter 1983. Its power is equivalent to a heaven immortal's all-out attack. Hearing this, Ningyu's expression became extremely solemn. Although it was the weakest heaven immortal, it was still a heaven immortal with 10 great Dao powers. Given Ningyu's current strength, he had no chance of winning even against a pinnacle half-step heaven immortal with 10 great Dao powers. Not to mention a heaven immortal with 10 great Dao powers. A heaven immortal and a half-step heaven immortal were 2 completely different concepts. Generally speaking, no matter how much great Dao powers a pinnacle half-step heaven immortal had, it would be very difficult to fight against a real heaven immortal. Even the weakest heaven immortal had a much stronger great Dao powers than a pinnacle half-step heaven immortal. This was because the heaven immortal tribulation could baptize one's great Dao powers and strengthen them tenfold. It could be said that the great Dao powers of a pinnacle half-step heaven immortal and a real heaven immortal were like a child and a strong middle-aged man. The difference was huge, and there was almost no chance of winning. Red Fiend, what level is the Red Fiend sword now? Taking a deep breath, Ningyu tried to calm himself down. Although the demon god gourd was strong, he was not to be trifled with. He had the Red Fiend sword as his trump card. Pinnacle Sage level. It's only 1 step away from a heaven immortal Dharma treasure. Red Fiend replied. What? Ningyu's face was filled with shock. To be honest, even Ningyu had not expected the Red Fiend sword to reach the Pinnacle Sage level. Although Ningyu knew that Red Fiend had been busy in the Red Fiend sword and had been asking him for Dharma treasures, elixirs, and everything else from the other divine princes, but the fact that the Red Fiend sword had reached the Pinnacle Sage level still shocked Ningyu. How confident are you that you can hold off the demon god's black gourd alone? Ningyu continued to ask. 50%. Red Fiend glanced at the demon god gourd in the demon god's hand through the Red Fiend sword. Red Fiend was the sword spirit of the Red Fiend sword and had an extremely keen sense of Dharma treasures. From Red Fiend's point of view, there was no artifact spirit in the demon god calabash. In other words, the demon god gourd could not unleash its full power. 50%. Ningyu frowned slightly as he calculated in his mind. To be honest, a 50% chance was enough for Ningyu to take a gamble. However, Ningyu would not foolishly make a move now. All he had to do was wait quietly for Zhao Rui to kill God He and the others. After all, at his level, even the slightest flaw could become a fatal breakthrough. He did not want the demonic god's son to seize this opportunity. Later, I'll try to see if I can snatch Ningyu's power of the Great Path and merge it with mine. While Ningyu was deep in thought, the demon godson was also deep in thought. However, the demon godson and Ningyu did not think the same way. Ningyu was thinking about how to kill the demon godson, while the demon godson was thinking about how to snatch Ningyu's Great Path power. After all, to the demon godson, Ningyu was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. As long as he made a move, he could kill Ningyu completely. 6 Great Path powers. As long as I can merge one of them, my strength will increase by several times. The demon godson's expression was solemn. In order to merge the Great Path power, one had to be extremely talented or have a unique physique. The demon godson's talent was not enough for him to merge the Great Path power, and his physique was not one of the top ones on the spiritual body roll. Therefore, the difficulty of merging the Great Path power was comparable to reaching the heavens. Boom! While Ningyu and the demon godson were deep in thought, a loud rumble came from the battlefield in the distance. Then, the 2 martial artists fell to the ground one after the other. Bang! Bang! 2 sounds rang out one after another, and the 2 martial artists fell flat on their faces. Without a doubt, these 2 martial artists were none other than Godson He and Godson Wu. Even when the 2 of them teamed up, they couldn't hurt Zhao Rui. In fact, they were even seriously injured by Zhao Rui. Whoosh! Whoosh! After falling to the ground, God He and God Wu did not give up. Instead, they took out 2 flying swords from their pockets. Pseudo-heavenly treasure. Although Divine Prince He and Divine Prince Wu weren't as powerful as the Demon Prince, each of them still had a pseudo-heavenly treasure. The so-called pseudo-heavenly treasures were Dharma treasures used by Sky Immortals before they became Sky Immortals. Generally speaking, upon advancing to the Heavenly Immortal stage, 99% of martial artists would choose a new natal magic treasure. Only an extremely small portion of martial artists would continue to use their previous treasures. However, the vast majority of martial artists would not throw away the magic treasures they had used before. Instead, they would carry them with them. Although this kind of magic treasure was not nourished by a Heaven Immortal, it had been with a Heaven Immortal for a long time, so it was tainted with a trace of a Heaven Immortal's aura. The Dharma treasures in the hands of Godson He and Godson Wu were exactly like that. I'm going to turn you into ashes today. Divine Prince He and Divine Prince Wu looked at each other, then immediately stomped the ground and rushed towards Zhao Rui. In fact, the 2 of them didn't want to use the pseudo-heavenly treasure. After all, it was their trump card, and it was what they relied on to gain a foothold in the Thousand Demons Ridge. That was because their pseudo-heavenly treasures could only launch 3 attacks, just like the demon god Gord. However, the power of the 3 attacks that the demon god Gord could launch was equivalent to the full power of a Sky Immortal Overlord. And the power of the 3 attacks that their pseudo-heavenly treasures could launch was only equivalent to the full power of a martial artist with 8 Dao powers. Humph. If you had real heavenly treasures, I might be a bit afraid, but since you're using pseudo-heavenly treasures, you still have to die today. Zhao Rui snorted. She was obviously not afraid of the pseudo-heavenly treasures. After all, Zhao Rui came from a superpower in a high-level realm, and she had a single spirit body. It was reasonable that she was not afraid of the pseudo-heavenly treasures. Boom! The battle broke out again. This time, Zhao Rui didn't have an absolute advantage. She could only slightly suppress Divine Prince He and Divine Prince Wu. Swoosh! At this moment, the demon god's son suddenly moved. The demon god's son had been paying attention to the changes in the battlefield. When Divine Prince He and the others took out their pseudo-heavenly treasures, he showed signs of wanting to make a move. Now that Zhao Rui and Divine Prince He were fighting fiercely, the demon god's son found an opportunity and suddenly joined the battle. Oh no! Ningyu's attention was always on the demon god's son. When he saw the demon god's son make a move, he stomped on the ground and rushed out. The red demon sword in his hand slashed down. Whoosh! In a split second, several sword auras swept out and surrounded the demon god sun from all directions. Your opponent is me. Don't get involved in their battle. After slashing with the sword, Ningyu looked at the demon god sun and said coldly, "You overestimate yourself." The demon god sun looked back at Ningyu and threw the demonic god gourd in his hand. Chapter 1984. Red Devil. Seeing the demon god sun throw the demon god gourd at him, Ningyu shouted and threw the red demon sword in his hand. What Ningyu needed was not for the red devil to control the red devil sword to destroy the demon god gourd, but to delay the demon god gourd so that he could have more time to fight with the demon god sun. After all, he and the demon god sun both had the power of 6 paths. He did not know if he could defeat the demon god sun before they fought. Swoosh! The red devil had been waiting for this moment. As soon as Ningyu said that, he controlled the red devil sword to fight with the demon god gourd. Rumble! An earth-shaking rumble rang out. The clash between the red demon sword and the demonic god calabash created a terrifying shockwave. The red devil sword was a top-grade sacred-level Dharma treasure, while the demon god gourd was a heavenly treasure. On the other side, the demon god sun saw that the demon god gourd could not defeat the red devil sword immediately. He frowned and stopped. So it's a top-grade sacred-level flying sword with a sword spirit. No wonder. The demonic sun only needed one look to see through the red demon sword. A top-grade sacred-level flying sword with a sword spirit could indeed fight against the demon god gourd. However, in the demon god sun's opinion, even if the red devil sword had a sword spirit, it could only fight against the demon god gourd. It would be defeated sooner or later. After all, the demon god gourd was a heavenly treasure and had swallowed all the warriors in the city of demons. Under such circumstances, it would be too embarrassing if he could not defeat a top-grade sacred-level flying sword. Therefore, the demon god sun only looked back and sped up. He wanted to catch Zhao Rui before god sun He and god sun Wu died. Where are you going? However, the demon god sun's short pause gave Ningyu some time. At that moment, Ningyu had already arrived in front of the demon god sun and shouted, "Your opponent is me. You overestimate yourself. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish." The demonic god sun knew very well that his slight pause just now had caused him to miss the best opportunity. Therefore, he decided to get rid of Ningyu first before dealing with Zhao Rui. Although Ningyu also had the power of 6 great Daos, the demonic sun was not afraid at all. He came from a higher plane, and his martial arts were much stronger than Ningyu's. Ningyu did not have the aura of a higher plane, so Ningyu must be a native warrior of a lower plane. Almost all the people from the higher planes looked down on the martialists from the lower planes. It was natural for the demon god sun to look down on Ningyu. "Want to kill me? It won't be that easy." Ningyu's expression was grave. He gathered all the essence in his body on his fist and punched out. Crack! Ningyu's punch caused space to explode, and a huge crack appeared in space. Child's play. The demon god sun did not take Ningyu's terrifying attack seriously. He raised his right leg and kicked Ningyu's fist aura at Ningyu's head. Bang! Bang! At the critical moment, Ningyu changed direction and punched out again, colliding with the demon god sun's right leg. A muffled sound rang out. Then, Ningyu and the demon god sun retreated dozens of feet at the same time. Again, after the attack, Ningyu did not stay put. Instead, he chased after the demon god sun. This time, Ningyu did not use his essence chi. Instead, he wrapped the power of his great Daos around his fist. Although the demon god sun saw that Ningyu had the power of 6 great Daos, Ningyu's 6 great Daos had already fused into one. They could be separated or combined. Do you think you are the only one with the power of a great Daos? Come out. Sensing the power of a great Daos contained in Ningyu's fist, the demon god sun raised his head and shouted, refining all the power of 6 great Daos in his body. The demon god sun's great Daos were obviously much thicker than the destruction god sun's great Daos that Ningyu had killed previously. It could be said that one of the demon god sun's great Daos was equivalent to 1.5 of the destruction god sun's great Daos. Not good. The moment the demon god sun's great dows were released, Ningyu's expression changed. He realized that something was wrong. The demon god sun's 6 great dows were enough to match an ordinary warrior's 9 great dows. How could they fight this? Ningyu knew very well that there was only one way. He had to join forces with Zhao Rui and use the red demon sword. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for them to defeat the demon god sun. Crack, crack. In the sky far away, Zhao Rui seemed to have sensed Ningyu's situation. She used all her strength and killed God Sun He and God Sun Wu in an instant. Moreover, after killing God Sun He and God Sun Wu, Zhao Rui also devoured a great dows from each of them. Zhao Rui originally had 5 great dows, but after devouring 2 great dows from God Sun He and God Sun Wu, she had 7 great dows. It was not that Zhao Rui did not want to devour all the great dows from God Sun He and God Sun He, but they had self-destructed their great dows. Go. Zhao Rui killed God Sun He and God Sun He, so she naturally took their pseudo-heavenly treasures. Zhao Rui shook her wrist and threw the 2 pseudo-heavenly treasures at the demon god Gord. At that moment, the red demon seized the opportunity to force the demon god Gord back and returned to Ningyu's side. With 2 pseudo-heavenly treasures holding the demon god Gord back, the red demon and the red demon sword merged into one, becoming a complete flying sword. As for Zhao Rui, she used her great dows to wrap around her fist and threw a punch at the demon god. Feeling the fist coming at him from behind, the demon god Sun quickly retracted the 3 great dows and turned to deal with Zhao Rui. The current situation was that the 3 great dows were dealing with Ningyu, while the other 3 were dealing with Zhao Rui. In the blink of an eye, Ningyu, the demon god Sun, and Zhao Rui were fighting each other. In this move, the 3 of them were evenly matched. Crack, crack, crack. The demon god Sun retreated slightly and summoned the demon god Gord to his hand. He looked at Ningyu coldly and said, "Very good, this is fun. Catch him alive." Just as Ningyu was about to speak, Zhao Rui, who was next to him, said. Hearing this, Ningyu's face darkened. Catch him alive? The demon god Sun had 6 great dows. As long as he wanted to escape, even if he and Zhao Rui worked together, they might not be able to hurt him. You underestimate your own strength too much. Now, use your war god body's blood and try fusing it with your great Dao power. Zhao Rui saw Ningyu's confusion and sent a soul message to Ningyu. Ningyu was taken aback at first, but then he started to act according to Zhao Rui's instructions. Whoosh! As soon as Ningyu's great Daos merged with the blood of the divine war body, his aura increased at an alarming rate. Boom! As a muffled sound rang out, many black tribulation clouds suddenly appeared in the void. The Earth-level deity trial. Chapter 1985. This, Ningyu's mouth was slightly agape as he looked at the dark tribulation clouds that suddenly appeared in midair. He was dumbfounded. He had been deliberately suppressing the essence chi in his body because he did not want to undergo the Earth immortal tribulation as soon as possible. He wanted to stabilize himself first. But the current situation left him with no way out. He could only bite the bullet and go ahead. Swoosh! The demon god's son saw the tribulation clouds in the sky and immediately retreated far away. The demon god's son was not that stupid to stop in the middle of someone else's Earth immortal tribulation. Swoosh! Swoosh! Not only did the demon god's son retreat, but even Zhao Rui and the human demon also retreated. Ningyu's Earth immortal tribulation was not the same as other martial artists. Other martial artists might still dare to stay in the middle of their Earth immortal tribulation, but Ningyu's Earth immortal tribulation could only choose to avoid it. This was because the power of Ningyu's Earth immortal tribulation was comparable to an ordinary martial artist's Heaven immortal tribulation. One could only imagine how powerful Ningyu's Earth immortal tribulation was. Therefore, choosing to avoid the brunt of the attack at this time was the wisest decision. Swoosh! Although the demon god's son had retreated from Ningyu's Earth immortal tribulation, he did not stay idle. Instead, he dashed towards Zhao Rui. Since Ningyu was undergoing the Earth immortal tribulation, the demon god's son's plan was to get rid of Zhao Rui first before dealing with Ningyu. This was because it was still unknown whether Ningyu could successfully pass the Earth immortal tribulation. The demon god's son did not want to foolishly get involved. You retreat. Seeing the demon god's son charging towards her, Zhao Rui pushed the human demon far away and leaped towards the demon god's son instead of retreating. Zhao Rui now had 7 Dao energies and was a solitary spiritual body. She might not be at a disadvantage when fighting the demon god's son. Rumble. The demon god's son and Zhao Rui clashed instantly. However, they did not dare to get too close to Ningyu. After all, a slight misstep would cause them to be dragged into Ningyu's lightning tribulation. 7 great Dao powers. After one move, the demon god's son and Zhao Rui retreated a few feet. Among them, the demon god's son stared coldly at Zhao Rui. As he was busy fighting with Ningyu, most of the demon god's attention was on Ningyu. As for the fact that Zhao Rui had 7 great Dao powers, the demon godson was not particularly clear. Now, demon godson's expression was very ugly. A single spirit body with 7 great Dao powers already had the capital to contend against him. Kill. The demon godson did not retreat. He held the demon god gourd and charged at Zhao Rui again. As the peerless godson of the Devil's Restaurant, the demonic godson had his own pride. He couldn't possibly leave. He wanted to get rid of Zhao Rui first, and then get rid of Ningyu. Otherwise, if this matter were to spread out, he would no longer have a place to stand when he returned to the higher planes. Rumble. Not far away, Ningyu's attention was on the tribulation cloud that was getting thicker and thicker in the sky. Previously, when he was undergoing his worldly immortal tribulation, Ningyu had spent a lot of effort to get through it. Now that he was facing an earthly immortal tribulation, Ningyu wasn't completely confident. Swoosh. In an instant, the first tribulation cloud was formed. It was as thick as a few people's waists. This tribulation cloud swooped down from the void and charged at Ningyu at an extremely shocking speed. A peak half-step heaven immortal. Looking at the tribulation cloud that was charging at him, Ningyu's expression became extremely solemn. This was only the first tribulation cloud, but its power had already reached the peak half-step heaven immortal level. If this continued, wouldn't the power of the next few tribulation clouds be equivalent to an all-out attack from a heaven immortal? Break. Facing a peak half-step heaven immortal tribulation cloud, Ningyu didn't show any signs of fear. He casually threw a punch and smashed it directly onto the tribulation cloud. Bang! A crisp sound rang out. The first tribulation cloud instantly split open and dissipated between heaven and earth. Rumble. As soon as the first tribulation cloud dissipated, a rumbling sound came from the void, followed by the appearance of the second tribulation cloud. Hiss. Sensing the terrifying aura contained in the second tribulation cloud, Ningyu couldn't help but gasp at this moment, even though he was well prepared. 3 great Dao energies. The power of this tribulation cloud was actually equivalent to an all-out attack from a martial artist with 3 great Dao energies. Facing this tribulation cloud, Ningyu's performance wasn't that relaxed. He directly took out the red demon sword and decided to use it to deal with the second tribulation cloud. The red demon sword drew a mark in the air, and then fiercely smashed onto the second tribulation cloud. Crack. Although the second tribulation cloud was equivalent to an all-out attack from a martial artist with 3 great Dao energies, under the powerful attack of the red demon sword, it instantly disintegrated and dissipated between heaven and earth. After all, Ningyu had directly used his great Dao energies for this attack. Rumble. As soon as the first 2 tribulation clouds were dealt with by Ningyu, the void once again let out a series of rumbling sounds. Following that, a series of terrifying tribulation clouds instantly smashed down. F***CK. Seeing the tribulation clouds suddenly smashing towards him, Ningyu's mouth slightly opened, and he couldn't help but curse. This was because the power of these tribulation clouds ranged from a peak half-step heaven immortal to 5 great Dao energies. Moreover, Ningyu even discovered that the power of one of the tribulation clouds had reached the level of 6 great Dao energies. The greater the power of the tribulation cloud, the more terrifying the final baptism. Ningyu wasn't frightened by these tribulation clouds. Instead, he was very excited. When he was undergoing the great tribulation of human immortal, the power of the tribulation clouds was very strong, so the tribulation liquid was very useful for his baptism. Now that his great tribulation of Earth Immortal had clearly increased the power of the tribulation clouds by several times, or even dozens of times, one could imagine how terrifying the final tribulation liquid would be. Ningyu, leave these tribulation clouds to me. However, just as Ningyu was about to use all his strength to deal with these tribulation clouds, he suddenly heard the voice of the Red Fiend in his ears. Hearing this, Ningyu was stunned at first, then he said, "Is the Red Fiend going to devour them again?" Ningyu was very clear that when he was undergoing the tribulation back then, it was the Red Fiend that devoured the most terrifying tribulation clouds. Otherwise, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu would definitely be in danger. That's right, I want to use these tribulation clouds to advance the Red Fiend to the level of a heavenly treasure. The Red Fiend replied in a deep voice. The Red Fiend's level was only one step away from becoming a heavenly treasure. The Red Fiend's plan was to let the Red Fiend devour Ningyu's tribulation clouds and use it to break through to the real heavenly treasure realm. After all, there was a huge difference between a peak sage-level Dharma treasure and a heavenly treasure. If the Red Fiend could advance from a peak sage-level flying sword to a heavenly treasure flying sword, not only would Ningyu benefit greatly, but even the Red Fiend might advance from the great perfection of the human immortal realm to the earth immortal realm. Moreover, the Red Fiend didn't need to undergo the tribulation to advance. Alright, I'll leave them all to you. Chapter 1986. Swoosh. After receiving Ningyu's approval, the Red Devil controlled the Red Devil Sword and charged towards the strongest tribulation cloud. If it was going to devour, it would devour the strongest tribulation cloud. As for the weaker tribulation clouds, the Red Devil didn't intend to devour them. It wanted to leave them for Ningyu to deal with. Holy shit! Seeing the Red Devil avoid the weaker tribulation clouds, Ningyu was dumbfounded. He originally wanted to watch the Red Devil's performance, but he had no choice but to make a move now. Although the tribulation clouds that the Red Devil avoided were weaker, it was still relative. With Ningyu's current strength, it wouldn't be easy for him to deal with these weak tribulation clouds. Oh right, let's try the leftover materials from the lightning pool. Ningyu was just about to make a move, but he seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly took out the leftover materials from the lightning pool from his storage ring. Previously, when facing the Dark Emperor and Ninglu's human immortal tribulation, Ningyu used the Red Devil Sword to chop off a piece from the lightning pool. From Ningyu's point of view, since it was a leftover material from the lightning pool, it should be useful for the tribulation clouds. Buzz. The leftover material from the lightning pool was just taken out by Ningyu and it kept shaking in Ningyu's palm. It felt like it wanted to rush out. Indeed, if it wasn't for Ningyu holding it tightly, it would have already rushed out. It's useful for tribulation clouds indeed. Seeing the movement of the leftover material from the lightning pool, Ningyu was pleasantly surprised. Since the leftover material from the lightning pool was useful for tribulation clouds, didn't that mean that he wouldn't need to deal with tribulation clouds personally in the future? Go. Ningyu temporarily withdrew his thoughts and flicked his wrist, throwing the leftover material from the lightning pool out. Whoosh. The leftover material from the lightning pool that Ningyu threw out was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, instantly causing the tribulation clouds in the sky to go berserk. These berserk tribulation clouds rushed towards the leftover material from the lightning pool. It was as if they treated the leftover material as the lightning pool. The sudden change was indeed out of Ningyu's expectations. He only thought that the leftover parts of the lightning pool could resist the tribulation clouds. He didn't expect that the tribulation clouds would treat the leftover parts of the lightning pool as a lightning pool and actually attach themselves to the leftover parts of the lightning pool. In other words, the leftover materials from the lightning pool were surrounded by several terrifying tribulation clouds, and each tribulation cloud could unleash an extremely powerful force. Can I take these tribulation clouds for my own use? Suddenly, Ningyu had a thought. If he could make good use of these tribulation clouds, it would be equivalent to gaining a powerful trump card out of thin air. After all, the combined attack of so many tribulation clouds was still very powerful. What happened? Ningyu was still thinking about how to control the tribulation clouds when Hong Fien's expression changed drastically in midair not far away. This was because the Red Fiend realized that the strongest tribulation cloud he wanted to devour had actually turned around and charged to the other side. This situation was something that the Red Fiend could never have imagined. What the F***ck? In a moment of desperation, the Red Fiend turned his head to look at the tribulation cloud. He wanted to see where the strongest tribulation cloud would rush to. However, this one look made the Red Fiend swear. It was charging towards Ningyu. The Red Fiend was dumbfounded. He wanted to use the terrifying tribulation cloud to advance the Red Fiend's sword to the level of a heavenly treasure. Now that the tribulation cloud was charging towards Ningyu again, didn't it mean that his efforts were in vain? How is this possible? However, what shocked the Red Fiend was yet to come. The most terrifying tribulation cloud was not charging towards Ningyu, but the leftover parts of the lightning pool in front of Ningyu. Ningyu had once used the Red Fiend's sword to cut off a piece of leftover parts of the lightning pool. The Red Fiend was very clear about this. However, in the Red Fiend's opinion, that piece of leftover parts of the lightning pool was useless other than being a little harder. Now, this piece of leftover parts of the lightning pool had absorbed the entire tribulation cloud of Ningyu's earth-level deity tribulation. How could the Red Fiend not be shocked? However, the Red Fiend did not lose his mind. Since the leftover parts of the lightning pool could deal with the tribulation cloud, he quietly retreated to Ningyu's side. Whoosh! It only took a minute for the leftover parts of the lightning pool to absorb all the tribulation clouds from the surface into his body. Swoosh! After absorbing all the tribulation clouds, the leftover parts of the lightning pool moved instantly and went into the void. Oh no! The sudden change made Ningyu's expression change drastically. He had already regarded the leftover parts of the lightning pool as his trump card. Now that the leftover parts of the lightning pool were trying to escape, how could he tolerate it? Therefore, Ningyu grabbed the Red Fiend's sword and went straight into the void. Ningyu's goal was clear. He wanted to retrieve the leftover parts of the lightning pool. Boom! Not long after Ningyu went into the void, his earth-level deity tribulation ended. In midair, a golden pool of lightning gradually appeared. Without a doubt, the tribulation fluid in this lightning pool was the key to completing Ningyu's baptism. Strictly speaking, Ningyu's earth-level deity tribulation was not over yet. After all, he had not experienced the baptism of the tribulation fluid. Tribulation fluid. Although the demon god was fighting with Zhao Rui from afar, he had been paying attention to the changes on Ningyu's side from the corner of his eye. Especially when he saw the golden lightning pool in the void, his eyes lit up. He forced Zhao Rui to retreat and rushed towards the lightning pool. The demon god knew very well that as long as he could snatch the tribulation fluid from the lightning pool, he might even be able to cultivate a few more great Dao powers. At his level, wanting to rely on his own ability to cultivate the power of the great Dao was already very unlikely. Unless he had external help, it would be difficult for him to cultivate great Dao powers even if he cultivated for 10 or even 100 years. Now that there was a shortcut, the demon god would naturally not let it go. How dare you touch my tribulation fluid? Die! Before the demon god reached the side of the lightning pool, a loud shout rang in his ear. Seeing this, the demon god's face turned ugly. The demon god naturally knew that this shout came from Ningyu. Now, he was faced with two choices. First, retreat and dodge Ningyu's attack. If he did so, he might lose the right to snatch the tribulation fluid completely because Zhao Rui was rushing over. Second, forcefully snatch the tribulation fluid and take on Ningyu's attack. Doing so might cause him to suffer serious injuries. No matter which choice it was very difficult for the demon god. Fight. In just 0.1 seconds, the demon god made his decision. He would take on Ningyu's attack and snatch the tribulation fluid. You overestimate yourself. Seeing the demon god's action, Ningyu suddenly appeared from the void and threw out the leftover lightning pool in his hand. Kai. The leftover lightning pool was very fast and almost reached the demon god's back in an instant. At the same time, the terrifying tribulation clouds on the leftover lightning pool exploded and smashed towards the demon god's back. Fart. In just one move, the demon god's back caved in from the impact. Fresh red blood came out of the demon god's mouth. If the demon god had not transferred the great Tao powers to his back at the critical moment, he would have been in trouble. Chapter 1987. What is this? Why is it so powerful? The demon god's son turned around and looked at the leftover material of the thunderbolt pool in Ningyu's hand. Although the demon god's son had yet to become a sky immortal, he was still very confident in his body's strength. Even a flying sword at the peak of the sage level might not be able to cause such great damage to him. One had to know that he had transferred the power of the great Tao from his body to his back at the critical moment. Even so, his back still caved in, and his aura dropped by more than 30%. Just think about it, if he hadn't transferred the power of the great path to his back at the most dangerous moment, it was very likely that he would have died by now. Therefore, the demon god's son believed that the palm-sized object in Ningyu's hand was at least a pseudo-heavenly treasure, even if it wasn't a heavenly treasure. So noisy. Ningyu glanced at the demonic god's son, then stomped on the ground and rushed towards the lightning pool in mid-air. But the moment he dashed out, Ningyu's voice was heard in the area. "Zhao Rui, I'll leave the demon god's son to you for now." Ningyu didn't have time to kill the demon god's son, because he had to enter the thunderbolt pool and use the thunderbolt liquid to cleanse his body. If he was late, the thunderbolt pool in the air might even disappear. It took him a lot of effort to pass the earth-level deity tribulation. If the thunderbolt pool disappeared before he went through the cleansing, Ningyu would probably regret it for the rest of his life. "Don't worry." Zhao Rui didn't say much. She rushed towards the demon god's son with two pseudo-heavenly treasures in her hands. Before this, Zhao Rui's strength was on par with the demon god's son. But now, the demon god's son's strength had dropped by 30% and it was difficult for him to fight against Zhao Rui. Retreat. Therefore, the demon god's son decided to retreat. As the saying went, where there's life, there's hope. He didn't want to stay here and be killed. Plop. After handing the demon god's son to Zhao Rui, Ningyu jumped into the thunderbolt pool. The dark golden lightning tribulation liquid around him rushed into Ningyu's body. As expected of the tribulation lightning liquid of the earthly immortal tribulation. Ningyu's face lit up as he sensed the terrifying energy contained within the tribulation lightning liquid. Compared to the thunder tribulation liquid that appeared during his human immortal tribulation, this thunder tribulation liquid was much more powerful. It was on a completely different level. Bang! Ningyu had not absorbed much of the lightning tribulation liquid when a muffled sound came from within his body. Following this, a terrifying aura burst out from his body and soared into the sky. Mid-earth immortal stage. Ningyu was shocked. In the entire lightning pool, he had only absorbed 1% of the lightning tribulation liquid, maybe even less. With such a small amount of lightning tribulation liquid, he advanced from the earthly immortal elementary stage to the earthly immortal intermediate stage. It was obvious to what extent his strength would increase to once he completely absorbed all the heavenly tribulation liquid within the lightning pool. Late earth immortal stage. The peak of earth immortal. A peak half-step heavenly immortal. Continue absorbing. Ningyu did not think too much. He activated the spiritual transformation art to the extreme and began to absorb the lightning tribulation liquid crazily. Ningyu could feel that every time he absorbed a bit of the lightning tribulation liquid into his body, his strength would increase by a bit. Bang! Not long after, another muffled sound came from within Ningyu's body. Late stage earth immortal. 3 minutes later. Another muffled sound came from within his body. Peak earth immortal. In just a few minutes, Ningyu's cultivation had increased from the early stage earth immortal to the peak earth immortal. Even compared with Zhao Rui before, Ningyu's cultivation speed was not inferior to hers. Absorb. After his cultivation had increased to the peak earth immortal, Ningyu was not satisfied. Instead, he increased the speed at which he absorbed the lightning tribulation liquid. A peak earth immortal might seem powerful, but compared to the peerless divine princes of some terrifying forces, they were far from it. Be it the ancient demon sect's ancient god, the heaven secret sect's Wuji divine prince, or the destruction divine prince. All of them were peak half-step heaven immortals. Ningyu had only reached the peak earth immortal level. There were still a few small levels between him and the peak half-step heaven immortal level. Ning Yu did not expect to become a heaven immortal immediately. He did not have the ability to do so. All he wanted was to increase his cultivation to the peak half-step heaven immortal level and be on the same level as the peerless divine princes of the major forces. Drip. Drip. As time passed, Ning Yu's cultivation was also increasing steadily. On the other hand, the battle between Zhao Rui and the demon god had reached its climax. Zhao Rui had even lost one of the two pseudo-heavenly treasures that she had taken from divine princes He and Wu. The remaining pseudo-heavenly treasure in her hand was also badly damaged by the demon god. Wait, it seems like someone is interfering. The human demon looked at the battle between Zhao Rui and the demon god in the air with a serious face. After the demon god's strength had decreased, there was no reason for him to suppress Zhao Rui. There was only one explanation for this situation. Someone in the void was helping the demon god. Only in this way could the demonic son gain the upper hand time and time again and even have the tendency to kill Zhao Rui. No, I have to inform Ning Yu. The human demon hurriedly sent a soul message to Ning Yu, who was in the thunderbolt pool. Zhao Rui is in danger. Since he did not know if Ning Yu had completed the baptism of the heavenly tribulation fluid, the human demon only told him that Zhao Rui was in danger. Whoosh! The human demon's anxious voice reached his ears. Ning Yu suddenly stood up from the thunderbolt pool and looked at the other side of the battlefield. Courting death. This glance made Ning Yu's face turn completely gloomy. The human demon might have only known that there was a martial artist in the void helping the demon god, but Ning Yu saw it clearly. There were a total of 2 martial artists in the void. Both of them were at the peak of half-step heaven immortal realm. Of course, they both had the power of great Tao. One of them was a young martial artist with a folding fan. He should have the power of 6 great Tao. The other martial artist with a pale face should have the power of 5 great Tao. Die. Ning Yu did not care so much. He took out a few jade bottles from his storage ring and stored all the remaining heavenly tribulation fluid in the thunderbolt pool. Then, he rushed out with the red demon sword in hand. Ning Yu did not care who they were. They dared to help the demon god, which meant they were his enemies. Ning Yu had always been ruthless to his enemies. If Ning Yu was still at the perfected human immortal, he might have felt troubled. But after devouring so much heavenly tribulation fluid, his cultivation had risen from the perfected human immortal to peak half-step sky immortal. In addition, he had the power of 6 great Tao, the leftover materials from the thunderbolt pool, and the red demon sword. His current strength was close to that of a martial artist with 8 great Tao. Crack! As soon as Ning Yu made his move, the last pseudo-heavenly treasure in Zhao Rui's hand was smashed by the demon god Gord. Moreover, the demon god Gord did not stop attacking. It smashed towards Zhao Rui's head. Chapter 1988. Ha ha ha, you're still alive this time? Seeing the demon god Gord charging at Zhao Rui, the demon god's son couldn't help but laugh. At first, the demon god's son only wanted to capture Zhao Rui alive and bring her to the Myriad Demon Ridge to break the seal at the entrance. However, as the battle progressed, the demon god's son changed his mind. He wanted to kill Zhao Rui because that was the only way he could vent the hatred in his heart. It's too early to celebrate. However, before the demon god Gord could reach Zhao Rui, a cold voice rang in the demon god's son's ears. Ning Yu. Hearing this, the demon god's son's expression changed slightly and he hurriedly shifted his gaze. How is this possible? Sensing the powerful aura emanating from Ning Yu, the demon god's son's eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. A peak half-step heaven immortal. At this time, no matter how stupid the demon god's son was, he could tell that Ning Yu's cultivation had reached the peak half-step heaven immortal realm. Moreover, after the baptism of the heavenly tribulation fluid, Ning Yu's combat power had reached an extremely terrifying level. Nothing is impossible. Ning Yu didn't care how shocked the demon god's son was. He increased his speed to the extreme and appeared in front of Zhao Rui in the blink of an eye. The red demon sword in his hand slashed through the air and landed on the demon god Gord. Ding! A crisp sound rang out. Then, the demon god Gord was sent flying by the red demon sword and fell heavily to the ground. Buzz! The two martial artists in the void saw how easily Ningyu repelled the demon god Gord. Without a word, they hurriedly tore the void and tried to escape. The reason why they attacked was because they had received benefits from the demon god's son. However, even though the demon god's son had given them many benefits, they still chose to escape at the moment of life and death. After all, with Ningyu's current strength, they would only die if they stayed. "Where are you going?" Seeing the two martial artists escaping in the void, Zhao Rui shouted and rushed out before Ningyu could make a move. Zhao Rui had been suppressing her anger. She already had the upper hand when she fought with the demon god's son just now. However, the two warriors in the void interfered, which made her miserable beyond words. Now that Ningyu had completed the lightning tribulation fluid baptism and joined the battle to hold back the demonic son, she naturally had to take revenge. "Tell me, who else is in the immortal spirit realm in your herd of fiends restaurant?" Ningyu did not care about Zhao Rui and the rest. He stared at the demon god's son and said lightly, "The demonic son was the peerless god's son of the devil's restaurant, so he must have many secrets." Ningyu chose not to kill the demon god's son for now because he wanted to learn more. "Bah! Wouldn't I lose face if I said it just because you asked me to?" The demon god's son spat and said coldly, "Besides, even though you've reached the peak of half-step heaven immortal realm, you still only have 6 Tao energies. Killing you is as easy as killing a dog for me." Hearing the demon god's son's words, Ningyu felt like he was dreaming. How could the demon god's son still say such stupid words at this time? Was his brain rusty? Sigh, some people just won't give up until they see the coffin. Since the demonic god's son didn't want to surrender, Ningyu sighed. Then, he wrapped the great Tao energy around the red demon sword and rushed out. "Oh no!" Seeing Ningyu rush towards him with the red demon sword, the demon god's son's expression changed and he quickly retreated. The demon god's son knew his limits. The demon god Gord was a heavenly treasure, while the red demon sword was a peak sage flying sword. There was no comparison between the two. However, the fight with Zhao Rui had consumed a lot of the demon god Gord's energy. Not only was it severely injured, but it also only had 3 powerful attacks left. The demon god's son would not use the last attack easily. As the saying went, good steel should be used on the blade. The demon god's son's idea was to lure Ningyu away, then suddenly turn around and use the demon god Gord to launch the last attack to severely injure Ningyu. However, dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. Ningyu suddenly stopped when he was 10 meters away from the demon god's son. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu put the red demon sword into his storage ring and took out the leftover materials from the thunderbolt pool. The hardness of the leftover materials from the thunderbolt pool was no less than that of a heavenly treasure. Using the leftover materials from the thunderbolt pool to deal with the demon god Gord couldn't be any better. Damn it! The demon god's son knew the power of the object in Ningyu's hand and couldn't help but curse. After all, it was Ningyu who smashed his back with that object just now. Now that he saw Ningyu take it out and wrap the Tao energies around it, how could the demon god's son not be shocked? Die. Ningyu didn't give the demon god's son too much time to be shocked. He didn't hesitate to burn his blood essence to increase his speed. He held the leftover materials from the thunderbolt pool and smashed them toward the demon god's son's head. Since the demon god's son didn't want to surrender, there was no need for Ningyu to keep him alive. To deal with such a peerless divine son, he should kill him with one blow and not give him any chance. Block it. In a hurry, the demon god's son placed the demon god Gord in front of his head, trying to block the attack. Crack. However, a crisp sound was heard, and the demon god Gord was split in half from the middle. What? Seeing the demon god Gord split in half, the demon god's son's eyes widened in disbelief. The demon god Gord was a heavenly treasure. If it could break a heavenly treasure, could it be a dark treasure that surpassed a heavenly treasure? Above the sky immortal was the mystic immortal. The natal dharma treasure of a sky immortal was a heavenly treasure, while the natal dharma treasure of a mystic immortal was a dark treasure. Generally speaking, it was difficult to break a heavenly treasure. In order to break a heavenly treasure, it would only be possible if it was a dark treasure of a higher level. You can't kill me. I am the peerless divine son of the fiend restaurant. If you kill me, the Tower Master of the Fiend Restaurant will turn you into ashes. The demon god's son shouted anxiously. After all, in the face of death, everyone would show their weak side. Even if the Tower Master of the Fiend Restaurant is here, I will still kill him. Ningyu didn't give the demon god's son any chance. He smashed the leftover materials from the thunderbolt pool on the demon godson's head. Bang! The thunderbolt pool materials were so hard that even a heavenly treasure couldn't block them, let alone the demon godson's head. After Ningyu's attack, the demon godson's head exploded on the spot, and even his essence spirit died. Even the Tao energies in the demon godson's body were devoured by the leftover materials. Devour. Although the demon godson was dead, the energy in his body was still intact. Ningyu wouldn't waste such a good opportunity. He opened his mouth and started to devour the energy in the demon godson's body. After reaching the peak of a half-step sky immortal, Ningyu's devouring ability had greatly increased. Chapter 1989. Whoosh. From the start of devouring the demonic god's son to the end, Ningyu had used less than 15 seconds. After devouring the demonic god's son, Ningyu patted his stomach and let out a long sigh. Although he did not increase his cultivation, the density of the energy in his body had clearly doubled. Whoosh. Before Ningyu could rest for a moment, Zhao Rui in the distance turned into a shadow and flew straight towards him. It was obvious that Zhao Rui had taken care of the two martial artists hiding in the void. But Ningyu realized that Zhao Rui still only had 7 great Tao energies in her body. Ningyu pondered. It seemed that he couldn't devour someone else's great Tao energies under any circumstances. He had to fulfill certain conditions in order to use someone else's great Tao energies for his own use. Of course, Ningyu didn't know about these conditions. Get ready. We'll go to the 1,000 Demons Ridge later. Ningyu went straight to the point when Zhao Rui came to his side. Now that the city of demons had been refined by the demonic god's son, there was no need to stay here anymore. It might be the best choice to go to the 1,000 Demons Ridge first. No problem. Zhao Rui didn't have any objections. Going to the 1,000 Demons Ridge or staying here didn't matter to her. She had 7 great Tao energies in her body now. She had to stabilize them before she could continue devouring great Tao energies. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to devour any great Tao energies in front of him. Whoosh whoosh. Then, Ningyu flicked his wrist and released the Dark Emperor, Ninglu, the Wuji Divine Son, and the others from the storage ring. As for Wu Potian, the War God Crane, and the others, Ningyu let them stay in the storage ring. After all, they were going to the 1,000 Demons Ridge next. It was an extremely dangerous place. Even an Earth Immortal wouldn't be able to survive there, let alone a human immortal like Wu Potian. Ningyu, hand over your heavenly tribulation fluid. As soon as he emerged from the storage ring, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu yelled at Ningyu. Although they were in the storage ring, Ningyu's earthly immortal tribulation was too big to hide from them. When Ningyu was undergoing his worldly immortal tribulation, he already had a lot of lightning tribulation fluid, let alone this earthly immortal tribulation. In their view, Ningyu definitely had a lot of lightning tribulation liquid on him. Here. Ningyu already knew that the Dark Emperor and Ninglu would ask for it, so he flicked his wrist and threw out 2 jade bottles. Every jade bottle was filled with tribulation lightning liquid. It wasn't that Ningyu didn't want to give Dark Emperor and Ninglu too much, but with their human celestial full circle cultivation, no matter how much he gave them, they wouldn't be able to refine it. It would just be a waste. Whoosh. After getting rid of the Dark Emperor and Ninglu, Ningyu took out a slightly larger jade bottle and threw it to the human demon. The human demon was a celestial immortal, but he had some hidden injuries in his body. With the human demon's body's strength, it was enough to consume twice the amount of tribulation lightning liquid. Many thanks. The human demon thanked Ningyu, then took the jade bottle and retreated to the other side. Actually, the human demon had wanted Ningyu's tribulation lightning liquid for a long time. He was very clear that if he could use the tribulation lightning liquid to remove the hidden injuries in his body, then his strength would instantly increase explosively. He could even unlock some of the seals in his body, and use the power of great Tao that he couldn't use before. Right now, the celestial spirit realm couldn't withstand the descent of a celestial immortal, so whoever had more power of great Tao could dominate the celestial spirit realm. The human demon's power of great Tao, be it quality or power, was much stronger than Ningyu's. After all, his power of great Tao had been through the celestial immortal tribulation. Do you want tribulation lightning liquid? Ningyu didn't give Zhao Rui the tribulation lightning liquid, but looked at her and asked. Towards Zhao Rui, Ningyu always felt that she was like an old monster that had reincarnated. After all, swallowing the power of great Tao and killing the tribulation clouds with her bare hands wasn't something anyone could do. Moreover, Zhao Rui had already admitted that she came from a large faction in a higher plane. Since she came from a large faction, then she shouldn't be too interested in his tribulation lightning liquid. Ningyu didn't have much tribulation lightning liquid on him to begin with, so he had to save it if he could. I don't need it for now. Zhao Rui shook her head, but as she spoke, she seemed to have thought of something and continued, you can give Zhao Hang some tribulation lightning liquid. All right. Ningyu nodded. Since Zhao Rui had spoken, he couldn't refuse. After all, giving Zhao Hang tribulation lightning liquid was better than giving it to Zhao Rui. With the strength of Zhao Rui's body, the amount of tribulation lightning liquid she had swallowed was probably more than the human demon. She had a single spiritual body, and was an expert from a large faction in a higher plane. There was no guarantee that her cultivation in her previous life was even stronger than the human demon. But Zhao Hang was different. His cultivation hadn't even reached the human immortal realm, so he only needed to be given a few drops of tribulation lightning liquid, and it would be sufficient for him to charge into the human immortal realm. Swish. Ningyu first released Zhao Hang from his spatial ring, and then gave him 3 drops of tribulation lightning liquid. Ningyu didn't let Zhao Hang personally swallow and refine the tribulation lightning liquid, but instead forcefully injected 3 drops of tribulation lightning liquid into Zhao Hang's body, and helped Zhao Hang refine it. Go. When Ningyu helped Zhao Hang refine the tribulation lightning liquid, Zhao Rui flicked her sleeve, and suddenly threw out a white medicinal pill. Bang! This white medicinal pill suddenly transformed into powder, and entered Zhao Hang's body from all directions. The quality of this medicinal pill. As an alchemist, the strength of Ningyu's soul force had reached the level of monarch rank, so he was naturally able to notice that this medicinal pill that Zhao Rui took out was extraordinary. Merely from the quality of the medicinal pill, it wasn't inferior to the 5-finger immortal pill that he obtained from the 5-finger cauldron. A peak monarch rank medicinal pill. The grade of the 5-finger immortal pill was around the peak monarch rank to the 1st grade saint rank. So, the medicinal pill that Zhao Rui gave Zhao Hang was at least a peak monarch rank medicinal pill. Zhao Hang's cultivation was only at the saint rank now, and with the strength of his body, it was utterly impossible for him to refine an entire peak monarch rank medicinal pill. Help him refine this medicinal pill. Right when Ningyu was feeling bewildered, Zhao Rui's voice suddenly resounded by his ear. Ningyu's face darkened. He'd thought that Zhao Rui would personally help Zhao Hang, but who would have imagined that in the end, it was still him who had to do it. However, Ningyu didn't complain about anything, and he waved his hands repeatedly before suddenly slapping Zhao Hang's back. The soul force within his body surged out and entered Zhao Hang's body. Circulating the spiritual transformation art to the extreme, Ningyu started to refine the tribulation lightning liquid and peak monarch rank medicinal pill in Zhao Hang's body. In this region, Ningyu was helping Zhao Hang, while the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were both busy refining the tribulation lightning liquid to break through to the Earth immortal realm. The human devil was also busy refining the tribulation lightning liquid, wanting to remove the seal in his body. As for Zhao Rui, she was flying back and forth in the surroundings, in charge of protecting them. With so many people cultivating here, it definitely wouldn't do without someone protecting them. Chapter 1990. Drip. Drip. Time was ticking away. As the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were both at the perfected human immortal realm, they were only a step away from Earth immortals. Therefore, they experienced some changes after consuming the tribulation fluid. Without a doubt, the space above their heads was shrouded by the dark tribulation clouds. Earth immortal tribulation. At this moment, The Dark Emperor and Ning Luha's Earth Immortal Tribulation had arrived at the same time. Swish, swish. The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu knew their place very well. They did not stay for long, but dashed into the distance with a flicker of their bodies. Ning Yu, Zhao Hang, and the others were in this area. If they tried to break through to Earth Immortal Realm here, they would definitely be affected. Therefore, the two of them chose to obediently fly into the distance. Rumble. As soon as they were far away from Ning Yu and the others, the dark tribulation clouds above their heads let out a loud rumble. Then, two tribulation clouds came crashing down. One of them smashed towards Ning Lu, the other towards the Dark Emperor. Fortunately, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were far away. Otherwise, the two tribulation clouds would definitely be affected. Crack. The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu's Earth Immortal Tribulation had just begun when the human demon's body began to crackle. After refining the tribulation fluid that Ning Yu had given him, the human demon had yet to fully recover from his injuries, but he had already unlocked some of the seals. In other words, the human demon could already use some great Tao force. 3 great Tao forces. Although humans could only use 3 great Tao forces, the strength of his great Tao force was even stronger than the demonic god's son. In other words, the human demon could fight against martial artists with 6 great Tao forces. If I give you more tribulation fluid, how many great Tao forces can you use? Ning Yu retracted his hand from Zhao Hang's back and asked the human demon. After all, they were going to Thousand Demon Ridge later. If the human demon's strength could increase, it would be a good thing for Ning Yu. 6 great Tao forces. The human demon thought for a moment and said, if you give me more tribulation fluid, I can undo a small part of the seal in my body and use 6 great Tao forces. All right. Without any hesitation, Ning Yu pulled out a jade vial from his storage ring and tossed it to the human demon. Pa. Taking the liquid from Ning Yu, the human devil opened his mouth and swallowed the entire bottle. Kacha. The jade bottle shattered, and the lightning tribulation liquid inside entered the human devil's body through his throat. Ka. Several crisp sounds rang out, and the demonic human's aura rose once again. Before this, the human devil could only unleash the strength of a high-grade half-step heaven immortal. But now, his cultivation base had recovered to the peak of half-step heaven immortal realm. Bang! Before long, a muffled sound came from the human devil's body. Soon after, 3 strands of great Tao energy appeared around them. In addition to the 3 great Tao powers that human demon had released when he unsealed himself, human demon could now use 6 great Tao powers. It was no exaggeration to say that the human demon's battle prowess had leapt to become the strongest in this area. Even if Zhao Rui and Ning Yu joined hands, they might not be a match for the human devil. After all, the human demon's 6 great Tao powers were great Tao powers that had experienced the heavenly immortal tribulation. On the other hand, Ning Yu's power of the great Tao was only after experiencing the earthly immortal tribulation. It was completely different from the power of the great Tao that had experienced the heavenly immortal tribulation. Boom! Before Ning Yu could sigh with emotion, Zhao Hang, who was in front of him, suddenly opened his eyes, and a burst of aura rushed out. Then, black tribulation clouds appeared above Zhao Hang's head. Human immortal tribulation. At this moment, Zhao Hang welcomed his own human immortal tribulation. Retreat. Raising his head to look at the black tribulation clouds, Ning Yu stomped on the ground and flew into the distance. Although Ning Yu could withstand Zhao Hang's human immortal tribulation with his current strength, he didn't plan to do so. Because if he helped Zhao Hang withstand the human immortal tribulation, he would take a portion of the final baptism. In other words, there was a huge difference between relying on others to complete the tribulation and completing the tribulation yourself. Ning Yu, go look after the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu. I will protect Zhao Hang. Zhao Hang was Zhao Rui's brother after all. Therefore, Zhao Rui did not want Ning Yu to help Zhao Hang's human immortal tribulation. As soon as she finished speaking, she circled around Zhao Hang, acting as his protector. All right. Ning Yu didn't want to fight with Zhao Rui for the position of protector. He nodded, then his figure flashed and rushed towards the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu. The Dark Emperor was the purple-gold sky-devouring hound, and Ning Lu was the world tree. Their earthly immortal tribulation was not simple. Although the Dark Emperor's earthly immortal tribulation could not compare to Ninglu's earthly immortal tribulation was different. After all, Ninglu's body was the world tree, and the world tree was a terrifying existence that soared through the clouds in ancient times. Rumble. Just as Ningyu was thinking about this, a tribulation cloud as thick as a waist suddenly smashed toward Ninglu. Pinnacle half-step heaven immortal. The power of this tribulation cloud had reached the level of a terrifying pinnacle half-step heaven immortal. Ningyu was shocked. This was only Ninglu's first 3 tribulation clouds. The first 3 tribulation clouds were already so powerful. One could only imagine how powerful the later ones would be. Rumble. While Ningyu was still shocked by Ninglu's terrifying tribulation cloud, on the other side, a tribulation cloud suddenly smashed towards the Dark Emperor. Pinnacle Earth Immortal. The power of the Dark Emperor's tribulation cloud had reached the pinnacle Earth Immortal realm. As expected of the purple gold sky devouring hound. Ningyu's face was solemn. In ancient times, the sky devouring hound was a terrifying race that was comparable to the true dragon. The purple gold sky devouring hound was the king of the sky devouring hound race. It was within Ningyu's expectations that the Dark Emperor could summon such terrifying tribulation clouds. Rumble. As the Dark Emperor and Ninglu were very special, their Earth Immortal tribulations didn't require Ningyu's interference. In Ningyu's opinion, the two of them would definitely be able to pass through their Earth Immortal tribulations. All he had to do was to watch over here to prevent any small fry from entering the tribulation clouds to disturb Ninglu and the Dark Emperor. Drip. Drip. Time ticked by, and in the blink of an eye, 3 hours had passed. Within these 3 hours, the power of the Dark Emperor and Ninglu's tribulation cloud had reached the pinnacle half-step heaven immortal realm. Zhao Hang's Earth Immortal tribulations had ended while the Dark Emperor and Ninglu's Earth Immortal tribulations were still getting stronger. Shua. After helping Zhao Hang complete his Earth Immortal tribulations, Zhao Rui's body flashed and she came to Ningyu's side. Looking at the ever-increasing tribulation clouds, Zhao Rui said, "When we reach the higher planes, I can let the two of them return with me." Return with you? Chapter 1991. That's right. Zhao Rui nodded and then explained. Both of them are very talented. Let them go back with me and they'll be able to unleash their talents to the fullest. They'll be able to break through to the Heaven Immortal realm very quickly. Zhao Rui knew that Dark Emperor was a purple gold sky devouring hound, but she didn't know Ninglu's exact identity. But from Zhao Rui's point of view, since Ninglu's Earth Immortal tribulation was comparable to Dark Emperor's or even slightly stronger, then Ninglu's identity wouldn't be low. She had some status in the higher planes. Letting Dark Emperor and Ninglu go back with her was better than staying by Ningyu's side. If she didn't know that Ningyu was very stubborn, she would even invite Ningyu to go back with her. I can't make the decision for now. When their Earth Immortal tribulation is over, you can ask them personally. If they're willing to go back with you, I won't force them. Ningyu didn't give Zhao Rui any promises. He wasn't sure what Dark Emperor and Ninglu were thinking. If he hastily agreed to Zhao Rui now, it was very likely that the Dark Emperor and Ninglu would be displeased. Millimeter, of course I know that. Zhao Rui nodded slightly and didn't say anything else. To be honest, Zhao Rui was very confident. When Dark Emperor and Ninglu's Earth Immortal tribulation was over, she would promise them something that they couldn't refuse. Rumble. Far away, Dark Emperor and Ninglu's Earth Immortal tribulation was still going on. As time passed, their tribulation clouds were getting stronger and stronger. Just now, the power of the tribulation clouds was only equivalent to a pinnacle half-step Heaven Immortal's full power attack. Now, the power of the tribulation clouds was close to that of a martial artist with a great Dao. I wonder if they will be able to withstand it. Ningyu frowned slightly and his expression was solemn. Now, the power of Dark Emperor and Ninglu's tribulation clouds were no weaker than Ningyu's tribulation clouds. After all, one was a purple gold sky devouring hound and the other was a world tree. Rumble. Rumble. At this moment, 2 terrifying tribulation clouds smashed down from the sky. Their targets were Ninglu and Dark Emperor. The last tribulation cloud. Obviously, this tribulation cloud was the last tribulation cloud for the Dark Emperor and Ninglu. They successfully completed the Earth Immortal Tribulation and accepted the baptism of the Lightning Tribulation liquid. If they couldn't, then sorry, they would both disappear from this world. Success or failure depended on this one move. Block. At the moment of crisis, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu both used their power and attacked the tribulation clouds without holding back. Kacha. Under the powerful attacks of the Dark Emperor and Ninglu, the last tribulation cloud that was charging towards them let out a cracking sound and split into two. After the tribulation cloud split into two, its power was directly reduced by half. Under such circumstances, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu were naturally able to withstand the tribulation clouds very easily. Seeing the sudden change, Ningyu couldn't help but let out a long sigh. The overall situation was set. What happened next was basically confirmed. Buzz. As expected, after the Dark Emperor and Ninglu blocked the last tribulation cloud, a buzzing sound suddenly rang out in midair. Immediately after, two golden lightning pools appeared. Just from the quality of the lightning pools, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu's lightning pools were only slightly weaker than Ningyu's lightning pools, but not by much. Plop. Plop. The Dark Emperor and Ninglu didn't stay on the spot for too long. They directly leaped up and both jumped into the lightning pools. The lightning tribulation liquid rushed into their bodies. Under their full efforts to refine it, it quickly decreased. Almost every few seconds, the lightning tribulation liquid in the lightning pools would decrease by a portion. After successfully passing the Earth Immortal Tribulation, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu's cultivation also rose from Human Immortal Full Circle Realm to peak half a step Heaven Immortal Realm. It could be said that their combat power was already the strongest among the martial artists who didn't possess the power of Tao. Of course, this was under the situation where they hadn't been baptized by the lightning tribulation. Once they completed the baptism of the lightning tribulation liquid, their combat power would increase by several folds. At that time, even if they didn't have the power of Tao, they could still fight against martial artists who did and even kill them. Drip. Drip. Time passed by quickly. Although the speed at which the Dark Emperor and Ninglu devoured the lightning tribulation liquid was very fast, it was still very hard for them to completely devour a large pool of lightning tribulation liquid in a short period of time. 2 hours. The Dark Emperor and Ninglu used a full 2 hours before they devoured half of the lightning tribulation liquid in the lightning pool. As for the remaining lightning tribulation liquid, the two of them kept it in case of emergencies. Ningyu, eat my fist. After successfully completing the baptism of the lightning tribulation liquid, Ninglu's feet stepped on the ground and his body suddenly charged out. His right hand clenched into a fist and punched fiercely towards Ningyu. Almost every time his strength increased, Ninglu would find Ningyu to spar. Of course, every time Ninglu would end up with a crushing defeat. Defeat after defeat. Using these 4 words to describe Ninglu couldn't be any better. But this time, Ninglu was very confident. Firstly, his main body was the World Tree. Secondly, he went from Human Immortal Full Circle Realm to peak half a step Heaven Immortal Realm. Lastly, he even completed the baptism of the lightning tribulation liquid and obtained a qualitative breakthrough. Although his body didn't produce any great Tao energy, his dark golden branches appeared once again, and this time, there were 6 of them. 6 dark golden branches signified that his strength was already comparable to that of a cultivator with 6 great Tao energies. Me too. Seeing Ninglu make his move, the Dark Emperor didn't stay idle either. His 4 hooves stepped on the ground and his body suddenly charged out. Although the Dark Emperor wasn't the World Tree, his main body was the heaven-devouring purple gold. After successfully passing the Earth Immortal Tribulation, the Dark Emperor awakened some of the sealed memories in his body. However, the inherited memories that the Dark Emperor had awakened were not his strongest trump card. His strongest trump card was still his devouring power. The heaven-devouring hound's power of devouring would get stronger as their cultivation increased. Previously, his cultivation was low and his inherited memories hadn't awakened, so he couldn't fully understand the true meaning of devouring. Now that he had advanced to peak half a step heaven immortal realm and awakened his inherited memories, he was about to understand the true meaning of devouring. Although the Dark Emperor's combat strength was slightly weaker than Ninglu, it wasn't too much weaker. I knew you guys would spar with me. Looking at the approaching Ninglu and the Dark Emperor, Ningyu rolled his eyes and extended two fists helplessly. Since they wanted to spar, Ningyu naturally wouldn't spoil their fun. The energy in his body coiled around his fists and Ningyu punched out two punches in an instant. As it was just a spar, Ningyu didn't use the Great Tao energy. After all, the might of Great Tao energy was very strong and a little carelessness could cause an accidental injury. Chapter 1992. Ningyu's strength is much greater than I imagined. The human demon frowned slightly when he saw Ningyu's nonchalant appearance. Previously, the human demon had thought that he could suppress Ningyu with his strength. Even if he couldn't, he could still fight Ningyu head-on. But now, the human demon realized that even though his 6 great Tao forces had all undergone the baptism of the Sky Immortal Tribulation, he still couldn't suppress Ningyu. This was because Ningyu was stronger than him in terms of physical toughness, speed, and reflexes. Moreover, Ningyu's 6 great Tao forces had completely fused into one, turning into a single great Tao force. Moreover, Ningyu's great Tao force had undergone the baptism of tribulation fluid. Although it wasn't as strong as the great Tao force that had undergone the Sky Immortal Tribulation, it wasn't too far off. His not simple indeed. Zhao Rui's expression also turned slightly solemn. Zhao Rui secretly compared her strength with Ningyu's. She was shocked to discover that she could no longer suppress Ningyu completely. In other words, Ningyu completely possessed the ability to fight her. How long had it been? Only a few days had passed since she'd awakened the memories of her past life. In just a few days, she'd witnessed an almost impossible miracle. It should be noted that exceptional geniuses like Ningyu were extremely rare even in high-class planes. Only a few huge factions in the depths of the cosmos could produce a seedling or two. Bang! Bang! While the human demon and Zhao Rui were still shocked by Ningyu's astonishing strength, Ningyu's sparring session with the Dark Emperor and the others was nearing its end. 2 crisp sounds rang out, followed by the Dark Emperor and Ninglu retreating in unison. It was clear that Ningyu had won the sparring session. Holy sh**t, Ningyu, how are you so strong? Ninglu and the Dark Emperor's bodies drew a beautiful arc in the air, and then quickly rushed to Ningyu's side, and said in surprise. Both of them were shocked. With their strength, they could even slightly contend with the demonic god's son. However, when they faced Ningyu, it was as if they were facing a vast ocean. They were powerless and were defeated without any suspense. I've always been this strong. Ningyu shrugged and said, let's rest here for a while before heading to the Myriad Demon Ridge. Actually, Ningyu wanted to head to the Myriad Demon Ridge just now, but before he left, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu's earthly immortal tribulation came. Due to this reason, Ningyu could only stay and wait for them to finish their tribulation before leaving. At this moment, both of their earthly immortal tribulations had ended and Zhao Hang had successfully advanced to the human immortal stage. The human demon had also unlocked some of the seals in his body and could use the 6 Tao powers. It could be said that the combat power of these people had already reached its peak state. There couldn't be a better time to head to the Myriad Demon Ridge. Ningyu and the rest did not stay here for too long. 10 minutes later, they left in an orderly manner and charged towards the Myriad Demon Ridge. Buzz! Not long after Ningyu and the others left, a crack appeared in the void of this area. Then, a young martial artist appeared. If the demonic god's son was still alive, he would definitely find this young martial artist very familiar. Tianlong god's son. This young martial artist was none other than the peerless god's son of the Heaven Secret sect, Tianlong god's son. He just experienced a great battle, and there's also the aura of the earthly immortal tribulation and human immortal tribulation, and even, Tianlong god's son first looked around, then seemed to feel something. His expression changed, and he said in a low voice, the aura of a heaven immortal. That's right, Tianlong god's son felt a trace of the aura of a heaven immortal in this area. Although this trace of heaven immortal aura was very weak, Tianlong god's sharp senses still detected it. There was no doubt that this trace of heaven immortal aura shocked Tianlong God. Could it be that someone has become a heaven immortal from the immortal spirit state? Tianlong God frowned slightly and murmured. Or maybe a heavenly treasure launched a suicidal attack. Then, Tianlong God's son shook his head and threw these two thoughts out of his mind. Although this trace of heaven immortal aura was weak, it was very real. It was as if there was a sky immortal expert hiding around him. Oh no! Suddenly, Tianlong God's son seemed to have discovered something. He hurriedly stomped on the ground, turned into a shadow, and dashed away. Whoosh! A few seconds after Tianlong God's son disappeared, the void where he was originally at exploded. Then, a martial artist appeared. I'm still one step late. After this martial artist appeared, he looked in the direction where Tianlong God's son disappeared and said in a low voice, "The power of 9 great paths." No wonder he could erase the mark in the 5-fingered divine elixir. The 5-fingered divine. This martial artist was none other than the owner of the 5-fingered cauldron, the 5-fingered divine elixir. In fact, the 5-fingered divine elixir had wanted to rush over when he lost contact with the cauldron and the 5-fingered divine elixir. However, he had something urgent to attend to at that time, so he was delayed. After he finished his business, he immediately followed the aura and rushed over. However, he was still one step too late. There is a trace of the aura of the Heaven Secret sect. The 5-fingered divine sniffed the air for a moment, then his face turned cold and he said coldly, "I have no grudges with the Heaven Secret sect. I didn't expect you to covet my 5-fingered divine elixir." Very well, very well. Crack. Out of anger, the 5-fingered divine clenched his fists, making cracking sounds. Without a doubt, the 5-fingered divine blamed the Heaven Secret sect for what had happened. If Tianlong God knew what the 5-fingered divine elixir was thinking, he would probably vomit blood. After all, that matter had nothing to do with the Heaven Secret sect. On the contrary, the Heaven Secret sect had an irreconcilable feud with Ningyu. Now that he had an enemy at the sky immortal level for no reason, how could he not be depressed? Count yourself lucky. Let's meet again at the Myriad Demon Ridge. The 5-fingered divine took a deep breath, then his body gradually turned into nothingness and disappeared into the void. Ningyu had no idea what had happened here. At the same time, he was rushing toward the Myriad Demon Ridge at full speed. The Myriad Demon Ridge contained the greatest opportunity of the entire immortal spirit grade. Moreover, it was rumored that there was a spatial tear in the depths of the Myriad Demon Ridge that led directly to a high-level plane. Due to the influence of the plane barrier, no immortal spirit-grade martialists had been able to ascend to a high-level plane for hundreds of years. Now that there was a chance to enter a high-level plane, all the immortal spirit-grade and demon spirit-grade martialists went crazy. After all, in their opinion, the density of essence energy and resources outside the high-level plane far exceeded that of the immortal forest gold and the demonic chains. Chapter 1993. After traveling at full speed for about 10 minutes, Ningyu suddenly stopped and shouted at the void ahead, "Come out, I know you guys are there. Someone's there." Hearing Ningyu's words, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu beside him shifted their gazes over. However, to them, there wasn't anyone in the void ahead. Why would Ningyu say there was someone there? Ningyu is right. The human demon and Zhao Rui exchanged a glance, then took a step forward and unleashed their auras. Whether it was the human demon or Zhao Rui, both of them were extremely powerful. Although they didn't use their full strength, ordinary peak half-step heaven immortals wouldn't be able to withstand it. Don't, let's come out. Don't attack. We mean no harm. Just as the human demon and Zhao Rui unleashed their auras, a few hurried voices rang out in the void. Then, several martial artists flew out of the void. There's only one peak half-step heaven immortal. The rest are human immortal and earth immortal. Ningyu murmured, looking at the sudden appearance of the martial artists. Their cultivation wasn't too high. The highest was only a peak half-step heaven immortal. By now, Ningyu could basically confirm that these people weren't here for him. He just happened to bump into them. Who are you people? Why are you hiding here? Although it was just a coincidence, Ningyu still had to ask what they were here for. If they were from Sacred Divine Palace or Fiend Restaurant, then it wouldn't make sense for him to let them go. After all, Ningyu and the Fiend Restaurant and Sacred Divine Palace were now in an irreconcilable situation. It was either you die or I die. Therefore, when he encountered people from forces like Sacred Divine Palace and Devil's Restaurant, Ningyu would never let them go. He could only kill them forcefully. This was because the enemy he had let go today might cause him a lot of trouble in the future. Senior, don't kill us. We're from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. We're here to find our palace master. The Peak Half-Step Heaven Immortal Elder said hurriedly after hearing Ningyu's cold words. What? Ningyu's expression changed. His aura suddenly pressed down on the elder. The reason why Ningyu was so agitated was because his mother in this life, Mu Yunshan, came from Supreme Nine Purities emptiness. However, Ningyu remembered clearly that the Supreme Nine Purities Temple might have been very powerful in the past. But now, it was at best a weak power. After all, the plane barrier had loosened, and many powerful forces had sent experts from high-level planes to descend. Ningyu got some information from Wu Potian and the battle god Crane. It seemed like the Zenith Nine Purities Palace didn't send any experts from the higher planes. Why were there so many experts looking for the palace master of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple? What's the name of your palace master? Ningyu took a deep breath as he looked at the white-clad old man and asked in a deep voice. Now, Ningyu was eager to know the name of the palace master mentioned by the elder. Was it Mu Yunshan? If it was really Mu Yunshan, then he would have to interrogate her properly. Mu Yunshan. Under the pressure of Ningyu's aura, the elder shivered and said in a trembling voice. Since he didn't know the relationship between Ningyu and the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, the elder was very nervous. If Ningyu and the Supreme Nine Purities Temple had a good relationship, then they wouldn't have died today. They might even have found helpers and asked Ningyu and the others to help find Mu Yunshan. After all, the elder knew that Ningyu and the others were very strong, so strong that they could compete with those people. But if Ningyu and the Supreme Nine Purities Temple had a bad relationship, then he would undoubtedly expose himself by saying Mu Yunshan's name. The consequences would be very serious. But at this time, the elder couldn't care too much and could only resign himself to fate. Speak, what happened to Mu Yunshan? Ningyu took a step forward and said coldly. Crack. Under Ningyu's powerful aura, not only the other human immortals and earth immortals knelt on the ground, but even the elder couldn't help but kneel. Even the Dark Emperor and Ninglu, who were next to him, couldn't take it. The Dark Emperor and Ninglu knew very well that this time, Ning was really angry. The palace master is being hunted by the Sacred Divine Palace. The white-clothed old man endured the pain all over his body and gritted his teeth. Swoosh. Suddenly, Ningyu withdrew his aura and everything returned to normal. Do you know where your palace master is now? After withdrawing his aura, Ningyu looked at the elder calmly and asked. The elder didn't know what Ningyu was up to. He thought about it and said honestly, the palace master should be at the range of demons by now. When we separated last time, we said that we would meet at the range of demons. The range of demons. A cold look appeared in Ningyu's eyes. Then, he grabbed the elder's shoulder and rushed towards the range of demons. Moreover, Ningyu asked as he flew, why are the people from the Sacred Divine Palace after your palace master? I'm not very clear about the reason. I only know that our palace master seems to have something that the peerless divine son of the Sacred Divine Palace wants. The elder didn't dare to be slow and explained hurriedly. The peerless divine son of the Sacred Divine Palace? Ningyu frowned slightly. Generally speaking, there was more than one peerless divine son in a powerful force. Some forces even had more than a dozen or more peerless divine sons. Do you know how many powers of the Great Path the peerless divine son of the Sacred Divine Palace has? Ningyu asked again. I'm not very clear about the specific number of powers of the Great Path, but I know that a genius in my sect who had 5 powers of the Great Path couldn't even withstand one move from the peerless divine son of the Sacred Divine Palace and was killed, the elder in white said. Said the white-robed old man. However, The white-robed old man still had some lingering fear when he said those words. The situation was very tragic. If it wasn't for an elder in the sect who had 6 powers of the Great Path and tried his best to resist the peerless divine son of the sacred divine palace, all of them would probably have died. He killed an expert who had 5 powers of the Great Path in one move. Ningyu looked slightly solemn. It wasn't because Ningyu was afraid of the peerless divine son of the sacred divine palace. To be honest, Ningyu could also kill an expert who had 5 powers of the Great Path in one move. What Ningyu was worried about was whether his mother in this life, Mu Yunshan, could hold on until he passed away. By the way, what's the strength of your palace master, Mu Yunshan? Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and asked the elder in white. Chapter 1994. The Palace Lord is much stronger than me. As for how many great Tao powers she has, I'm not sure. The white-robed old man already knew that Ningyu was a friend and not an enemy. Therefore, he answered all of Ningyu's questions. The white-robed old man even told Ningyu some secrets. Rumor has it that the supreme god's son of the primordial demon sect is also involved. However, the supreme god's son of the sacred divine palace wants to capture the palace lord alive and rob her of her belongings, while the supreme god's son of the primordial demon sect simply wants to use the palace lord to force her husband out. Swoosh. Ningyu's face darkened when he heard the white-robed old man's words. Mu Yunshan was his mother, and Mu Yunshan's husband was his father, Ning Hai. He had never seen his father, Ning Hai, since the last time they parted. After all, Ning Hai had said that he would find a place to improve his cultivation and that he didn't have to worry about him. Previously, Ningyu's cultivation was too low. Even if he found Ning Hai, he wouldn't be of much help. But things were different now. Not only had Ningyu advanced to the peak of a half-step heaven immortal, but he also had 6 terrifying great Tao powers. It could be said that Ningyu's combat power had reached its peak. Full speed ahead. Ningyu didn't ask any more questions. The primordial qi in his body surged and his speed doubled. Swoosh. Ningyu's speed was extremely fast, extremely fast. Behind him, the Dark Emperor, Ninglu, and the others complained. How could their speed compare to Ningyu's? Even if Ningyu didn't increase his speed to the limit, it would be difficult for them to catch up, let alone increase their speed to the limit. Let Ningyu go first. We'll follow behind. The human demon said after some thought. After all, Ningyu was very strong. Even if he reached the myriad demon ridge first, he wouldn't encounter any danger. If they slowed down a little, they could still take care of the human immortals and earth immortals of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Zhao Rui didn't think much of it. Her goal was the Dark Emperor and Ninglu. As long as she could get the Dark Emperor and Ninglu to follow her to a high-level plane, it would be considered a success. As for whether Ningyu would go or not, she couldn't force him, nor could she control him. At the same time, Myriad Demons Ridge. The Myriad Demons Ridge wasn't particularly far from the Devil's Tavern. At this time, in an open space in front of the Myriad Devil Ridge, hundreds and thousands of martial artists had already gathered long ago. The cultivation of these martial artists ranged from the Honorable Realm to the Peak Earth Immortal Realm. Obviously, these people were only here to join in the fun, and it would be very difficult for them to obtain any fortuitous encounters. In fact, even if the seal in front of the Myriad Demon Ridge was opened, these people would definitely not be able to enter. Whoosh! The silence in front of the Myriad Demons Ridge was broken. A blur rushed into the crowd at a terrifying speed. Rumble. As soon as the figure rushed into the crowd, the void around her suddenly exploded. Ah, my eyes. What the hell happened? Who broke my leg? Why did my cultivation drop to the creation realm? Oh no, a peak expert has attacked. After the powerful attack, dozens of martial artists in this area were killed. Fart. As for the blur that flew over just now, she was lucky enough to survive. However, even though she was lucky enough to survive, she was hit by the powerful attack and spat out several mouthfuls of blood, and her aura dropped sharply. In a short time, the martial artist's aura dropped from the peak half-step heaven immortal realm to the early earth immortal realm. Bang! 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 Not long after the martial artist spat out blood, the void around her suddenly cracked, and then 3 figures fell heavily around her. Palace Lord. Quick. Fart. One of the old men raised his head with difficulty, opened his mouth, and was about to say something, but suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and died on the spot. Whoosh. At this time, the void in mid-air cracked again. A group of martial artists slowly walked out of the void. Hiss. The moment these few martial artists appeared, everyone in front of the entire myriad Devil Ridge sucked in a breath of cold air. Terrifying. From the aura that these martial artists emitted, the weakest one was at the peak half-step heaven immortal realm. As for the young martial artist behind them, although he did not look special, the pressure he exuded was the greatest. It's the peerless divine son of the sacred divine palace. Suddenly, someone who knew the young martial artist exclaimed. The peerless divine son of the sacred divine palace? Didn't he come long ago? Someone pointed to the other side in confusion. There was also a young martial artist over there. Previously, someone had said that the young martial artist was the peerless divine son of the sacred divine palace. Why was there another person who was also the peerless divine son of the sacred divine palace? I'm afraid you've lost your mind. The martial artist who spoke earlier said coldly, the sacred divine palace is huge, and there are many divine sons in the sect. To be called the peerless divine son, one must have at least 5 great path powers. As for the others, they can only be called divine sons at best. They are not even close to the peerless divine son. Whoosh. Hearing this martial artist's explanation, everyone finally understood. So the person who appeared now was the true peerless divine son of the sacred divine palace. Swoosh. Just as everyone was still in shock, the divine son, who had been worshipped by everyone, flew over hurriedly. Welcome, divine son Yi Hong. This divine son's expression was very respectful, and his head was almost lowered to his chest. The young martial artist who was called Divine Sun Yi Hong waved his hand and said indifferently, Divine Sun Ming, have you seen Divine Sun Wu? There was a rule in the sacred divine palace. All divine sons had to address each other as Divine Sun. Otherwise, they would be stripped of their Divine Sun position. Therefore, even though Divine Sun Yi Hong's status was many times higher than Divine Sun Ming's, he still had to address Divine Sun Ming as Divine Sun. Divine Sun Wu seems to have followed Divine Sun He of the primordial demon sect and Divine Sun of the Demons restaurant to the city of demons. Divine Sun Ming didn't dare to be negligent and said hurriedly, they went to the city of demons. Divine Sun Yi Hong frowned slightly, then he pinched his right fingers and calculated. Boom. After a while, Divine Sun Yi Hong suddenly released his aura and pressed down in all directions. What exactly happened? Please let us go, Divine Sun Yi Hong. Divine Sun Yi Hong, we have no enmity with the sacred divine palace. Please don't kill us. I am willing to join the sacred divine palace. I only ask that Divine Sun Yi Hong spare my life. Under the pressure of Divine Sun Yi Hong's strong aura, some martial artists with no backbone started to surrender. Swoosh. Luckily, Divine Sun Yi Hong didn't release his aura for too long. He looked straight at Divine Sun Ming and said, go to the city of demons and investigate who killed Divine Sun Wu. Yes. Divine Sun Ming nodded hurriedly, then his body flashed and he rushed towards the city of demons. Although he was extremely unwilling, Divine Sun Ming didn't dare to say anything. After all, Divine Sun Yi Hong was much stronger than him. Chapter 1995. God Sun Ming had just left when God Yi Hong retreated slightly. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at the palace lord of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, Mu Yunshan, with interest. Hand that thing over. Before God Yi Hong could speak, a middle-aged man beside him stepped out and said coldly, otherwise, I will let you know what cruelty is. Mighty Miracle General. This middle-aged man was God Yi Hong's follower, Mighty Miracle General. Mighty Miracle Divine General's cultivation base was at the peak of half-step heaven immortal realm, and he possessed 5 Tao forces. Ever since coming to the immortal spirit realm, God Yi Hong hadn't fought. All the problems they encountered were solved by Mighty Miracle Divine General. Now that he was facing Mu Yunshan, God Yi Hong naturally chose to let Mighty Miracle General take action. After all, there were Primordial Demon Sect, Devil's Restaurant, Heaven's Secret Sect, and other powerful forces in front of the Myriad Demon Ridge. Before entering the Myriad Demon Ridge, God Yi Hong didn't want to reveal too much of his strength. "But, you need to have the ability to get that thing." Mu Yunshan looked coldly at Mighty Miracle General and said, "Even if I destroy that thing, I won't hand it over to you. You're courting death." Seeing Mu Yunshan's stubbornness, Mighty Miracle General suddenly glared with a cold gleam in his eyes. Then, he dashed out. Mighty Miracle General's speed wasn't any slower than the cold gleam in his eyes. Almost in an instant, Mighty Miracle General and the cold gleam arrived in front of Mu Yunshan. "I'll ask you one last time, are you going to hand it over or not?" Mighty Miracle General released his aura and pressed down on Mu Yunshan as he said fiercely. To be honest, Mighty Miracle General might be full of vigor, but he didn't dare to really kill Mu Yunshan. After all, Mu Yunshan had something that God Yi Hong needed. If he killed Mu Yunshan rashly, God Yi Hong would probably be the first to not let him off. The reason why he had unleashed his aura and his cold aura was to force Mu Yunshan to compromise. No. Mu Yunshan resisted Mighty Miracle General's aura with difficulty as she said, "I want to see what you can do to me today. I'm so angry." Divine General Mighty Miracle was so angry that his nose was crooked. He really couldn't kill him, couldn't move, and had nowhere to vent his anger. "As long as you can get that thing, I don't care how you do it." Just as Divine General Mighty Miracle was at his wit's end, Divine Sun Yi Hong's indifferent voice suddenly rang in his ears. Divine General Giant Miracle was taken aback at first. Then, his face lit up with joy. God's Sun Yi Hong's words were very clear. As long as he didn't kill Mu Yunshan, he would do anything. Ka. Thereupon, Divine General Juling twisted his neck, producing a cracking sound. "Since you're so stubborn, I'll have to show you my prowess." With a thought, the Mighty Miracle Divine General flung away the cold light beside him. Shio. The cold light was very fast and arrived in front of Mu Yunshan in the blink of an eye. Poochie. Under the powerful attack of the cold light, Mu Yunshan spat out a mouthful of blood. Her already weak aura became even weaker. "I'll ask you one last time. Are you going to hand it over or not?" Divine General Mighty Miracle Divine General took a step forward and released his aura again, pressing down on Mu Yunshan for the second time. Originally, Mu Yunshan's aura was already very weak. Resisting the cold light had already consumed most of her primordial chi. Now that Divine General Mighty's aura was pressing down, it was obvious that she couldn't withstand it anymore. Ka. Cracking sounds could be heard from Mu Yunshan's body. Her bones seemed to be on the verge of breaking. "You're courting death." However, just as Mu Yunshan couldn't hold on any longer, a roar suddenly came from afar. Crack. Immediately after, the void exploded and a middle-aged man suddenly appeared. "Oh no." Divine General Mighty Miracle Divine General's expression changed slightly when he saw the middle-aged man suddenly appear. He hurriedly retreated. Divine General Mighty Miracle Divine General was no fool. He could naturally tell how powerful this middle-aged man was. 6 Great Tao. From the middle-aged man, Divine General Mighty Miracle Divine General could sense the aura of 6 Great Tao powers. One must know that even Divine General Mighty Miracle Divine General only had 5 Great Tao powers. Facing a middle-aged man with 6 Great Tao powers, how could Divine General Mighty Miracle Divine General resist? Therefore, Divine General Mighty Miracle Divine General quickly turned to look at God's Sun Yi Hong, wanting him to help. However, God's Sun Yi Hong clearly had no intention of helping. His arms were still crossed in front of his chest as he stared at the middle-aged man with interest. He muttered, "Are you finally out? Embark, God of the Primordial Demon Sect, should be here too." Rumble. As expected. As God's Sun Yi Hong murmured, the void beside the middle-aged man suddenly exploded. Then, a young man walked out of the void. God's Sun Yuanbar. The young man was the God's Sun Yuanbar that Yi Hong had mentioned. He was the peerless God's son of the Primordial Demon Sect. His strength was comparable to God's Sun Yi Hong. After God's son Yuanbar appeared, he directly extended his right hand and grabbed at the middle-aged man. At the beginning, God's son Yuanbar's right hand was very small. However, as he continued to advance, his right hand became bigger and bigger. In the end, it even enveloped the middle-aged man. "Shanshan, hand that thing to me." The middle-aged man looked up at God's son Yuanbar's huge palm and hurriedly shouted at Mu Yunshan. "Here you go." Mu Yunshan did not have the slightest hesitation. She directly took out a round wooden rod and threw it to the middle-aged man. "Break for me." The middle-aged man grabbed the wooden rod and injected all his yuan qi into the wooden rod. Then, he stabbed the rod through the air. Bang! When the wooden rod in the middle-aged man's hand collided with God's son Yuanbar's palm, a crisp sound was heard. Then, God's son Yuanbar's palm rapidly shrunk and retracted. What kind of Dharma treasure is that? It can actually block God's son Yuanbar's all-out attack. What God's son Yuanbar's all-out attack? In my opinion, God's son Yuanbar only used 10% of his strength at most. That's right. God's son Yuanbar is the peerless God's son of the primordial demon sect. His strength is comparable to God's son Yi Hong. How can he not even block a broken wooden rod? The surrounding martial artists discussed animatedly. Most of the martial artists thought that God's son Yuanbar only used 10% of his strength at most. However, as the person involved, God's son Yuanbar's expression was extremely cold. He even couldn't help but tremble. Now, God's son Yuanbar was a little regretful. A Dharma treasure that could block his attack had to at least be at the heavenly treasure level. Back then, he and God's son Yi Hong had discussed that he would go after Mu Yunshan's husband, Ning Hai, while God's son Yi Hong would deal with Mu Yunshan. The final distribution was also that Ning Hai would belong to him, while Mu Yunshan and everything on her would belong to God's son Yi Hong. Chapter 1996. Divine Son Yi Hong, what kind of Dharma treasure is that wooden stick? Although he regretted it, Divine Son Yuanbar didn't lose his mind. He turned to look at Divine Son Yi Hong and asked, "Why don't I feel like it's a heavenly treasure?" "You're right. It's not a heavenly treasure." Divine Son Yi Hong nodded and said, "I still don't know what it's made of. How about this? Give me the wooden stick and you can have Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan." Divine Son Yuanbar rolled his eyes and suddenly said. Divine Son Yuanbar's meaning was clear. He wanted the wooden stick and wanted it. As for Ning Hai, he didn't mind giving it up. After all, there was a war god body in a high-level plane. There was no need for him to bother with Ning Hai. "You really want that wooden stick?" Divine Son Yi Hong suddenly looked at Divine Son Yuanbar and said with interest, "I can trade with you, but I hope you won't regret it later." Regret? What a joke. I, Yuanbar, have never regretted it. Divine Son Yuanbar raised his eyebrows and said proudly, "Since you've given me the wooden stick, then you don't need to participate in the following battle. I can settle it myself." Whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Divine Son Yuanbar stomped the ground and rushed towards Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan. Divine Son Yuanbar really wanted Ning Hai's wooden stick, so he started attacking crazily after discussing it with Divine Son Yi Hong. Take a step back. Ning Hai already knew Divine Son Yuanbar would attack. He protected Mu Yunshan behind him and gripped the wooden stick tightly in his right hand, glaring at Divine Son Yuanbar. Divine Son Yuanbar was strong, but he had an extremely special wooden stick. The current situation was clear. With the stick in hand, the world was his. Yuanbar fist. Divine Son Yuanbar came to Ning Hai's side in the blink of an eye and punched at Ning Hai's head with violent essence chi. Divine Son Yuanbar's punch was heavy. If Ning Hai was unlucky enough to be hit, he would die on the spot. After all, Ning Hai only had the power of 6 great paths, while Divine Son Yuanbar had much more than him. Go. At the critical moment, Ning Hai waved the wooden stick in the air and collided with Divine Son Yuanbar's fist. Bang! A crisp sound rang out as 2 figures retreated in unison. Poochie. Blood spurted out of his mouth. Ning Hai's right hand tightly gripped the wooden stick. The violent tearing force caused blood to flow out of his perlicue. On the other hand, although Divine Son Yuanbar had also retreated, he was clearly much better than Ning Hai. Hand over the wooden rod, and I can spare your worthless life. God Son Yuan Ba looked at Ning Hai coldly and said in a deep voice, otherwise, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Humph. If you have the ability, come and get it yourself. Ning Hai snorted coldly, not backing down at all. Although Yuanbar God's son was very strong, Ning Hai had the mysterious wooden stick in his hand. He would definitely not be defeated in a short period of time. In Ning Hai's opinion, relying on the mysterious wooden stick, it would not be a problem for him to persist for a few minutes. Heaven's sins can be forgiven, but one's own sins cannot be forgiven. Divine Son Yuan Ba's eyes shot out a beam of light. Then, he stomped on the ground and charged forward once more. This time, God Son Yuanbar was determined to snatch the mysterious wooden stick no matter what. Whoosh! What happened in front of the myriad Devil Ridge, Ning Yu was not very clear. At this time, his right hand grabbed the white-robed old man and was currently rushing towards the myriad Devil Ridge at full speed. Ning Yu's speed was very fast. As for the Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, and the rest behind him, they had long disappeared without a trace. Faster, faster. As Ning Yu was worried about Mu Yunshan's and Ning Hai's safety, he continuously increased his speed. Following the increase in speed, the white-robed old man faintly could not hold on anymore. Although the white-robed old man had peak half-step heaven immortal cultivation, he did not have the power of great Tao on his body. It could be said that under Ning Yu's horrifying speed, even martial artists who possessed a strand of the power of great Tao might not be able to persist, let alone the white-robed old man. If not for Ning Yu displaying his protective true essence to wrap around the white-robed old man, the white-robed old man would have long turned into nothingness at this time. Whoosh! After advancing at full speed for a period of time, Ning Yu suddenly stopped. Who? Staring at the void in front of him, Ning Yu said coldly, "Old man, let me ask you. Do you know?" The void split open and a young martial artist slowly walked out of the void. This young martial artist first stared at the white-robed old man, then his eyes fell on Ning Yu. "Hey! You also have a strand of the power of great Tao on you." The young martial artist stared at Ning Yu and asked, "When you came from the City of Demons, did you see God Wu from the Sacred Divine Palace?" The power of great Tao on Ning Yu could be fused or dispersed. At this time, he had fused all 6 strands of the power of great Tao together. Therefore, in the eyes of the young martial artist, he only had 1 strand of the power of great Tao. "You are looking for God Wu? Who are you then?" Ning Yu originally did not want to care about this young martial artist, but when he heard the young martial artist's words, he could not help but say, "Could it be that you are also from the Sacred Divine Palace? Brat, wipe your dog eyes and take a look. I am God Ming from the Sacred Divine Palace. My strength is much stronger than God Wu's. What do you want?" Before God Ming's words of praise for himself had even ended, his eyes widened and he said in surprise. Without a doubt, when Ning Yu heard that God Ming was from the Sacred Divine Palace, he did not say a word and immediately decided to attack. Anyway, he and the people from the Sacred Divine Palace were already incompatible like fire and water. When he saw the God Son of the Sacred Divine Palace again, he naturally would not hold back. "Brat, you are courting death." Looking at Ning Yu who was rushing towards him, God Ming's eyes widened and he instantly shouted in anger. God Ming was very angry. The reason why he was angry was that any random person dared to attack him. "I am going to turn your bones into dust." God Ming clenched his fists tightly and directly punched towards Ning Yu's head. Although the target of God Ming's punch was Ning Yu's head, Ning Yu's fist had already arrived in front of him. Helpless, he could only go up to meet it. Catcher, catcher. In the next instant, an extremely clear sound rang out. Then, God Ming's body was like a kite with a broken string, falling straight to the ground. Catcher. The sound of his body hitting the ground rang out. Because both his feet landed on the ground, God Ming's legs broke on the spot. In addition, his fist was broken by Ning Yu, so at this moment, both his legs and hands were broken. "You better behave yourself." However, Ning Yu didn't stop there. Instead, He continued chasing after Zhongxian. The great Tao energy in his body surged out and sealed God Ming firmly. Immediately after, Ning Yu grabbed God Ming with his left hand and the white-clothed old man with his right, flying straight towards the myriad Devil Ridge. From the moment Ning Yu attacked to the moment he defeated God Ming, it only took a total of a few seconds. Chapter 1997. They just went through a huge battle. Without a doubt, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu had chosen to stop. Ning Lu's expression was solemn. One of them should be Ning Yu, and the other should be an expert with the power of a great Tao. That's right, the other person has 5 powers of a great Tao. The human demon nodded. If I'm not wrong, the winner should be Ning Yu. The human demon's judgment was accurate. Although the human devil's strength had dropped a lot, he was still a Sky Immortal expert in his previous life, and a mid-stage Sky Immortal at that. Unless a martial artist had a special method to hide their aura, the human demon's perception could easily determine how many powers of a great Tao the other party had. Let's continue. The human demon and the others didn't stay in this area. They stomped on the ground and rushed forward. Buzz. Buzz. Not long after the human demon and the others left, a buzzing sound came from the void in the area. Then, a martial artist appeared. Godson Tianlong. Without a doubt, this martial artist was the peerless godson of the Heaven Secret sect. Godson Tianlong. I'm still one step too late. Godson Tianlong's expression was solemn. He raised his head and looked in the direction of the myriad demon ridge. Then, his figure flashed and he rushed forward. Crack! As soon as Godson Tianlong disappeared, the void in the area he was in suddenly split open. 5 Fingers Immortal. The martial artist that appeared this time was none other than 5 Fingers Immortal. Since the 5-fingered Immortal believed that his 5-fingered sacred elixir had been taken away by God Tianlong, his target had been God Tianlong. He would go wherever Godson Tianlong went. Whoosh! The 5-fingered Immortal did not stay there for long. He turned into an after-image and disappeared. At the same time, in front of the myriad demon ridge, Phut. Although Ning Hai had the mysterious wooden stick, Godson Yuanbar was the top godson of the primordial demon sect. At first, Ning Hai could use the mysterious wooden stick to fight against Godson Yuanbar, but as time passed, his decline became more and more obvious. In the end, Godson Yuanbar seized the opportunity and punched Ning Hai in the chest. The huge force that came from his chest directly caused Ning Hai to fly out and heavily fall to the ground. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and Ning Hai's aura plummeted. I'll ask you one last time. Are you going to hand over the wooden stick or not? Yuanbar Godson took a step forward and said coldly, succeeding in one move. Pooh. Ning Hai stood up from the ground with difficulty and said fiercely, even if I die, I will bite off a piece of your flesh. As Ning Haiku spoke, the blood of the divine battle body in his body started to burn wildly. Ning Hai and Ning Yu both had the war god physique. However, judging from the amount of war god's body blood that Ning Hai was burning, his war god's body awakening was much higher than Ning Yu's. The divine battle physique had its own unique methods. Burning his blood to increase his strength. Boom. Ning Hai had just ignited a few drops of the god of war body's blood, and his aura began to rise crazily. Oh, I really want to see what kind of waves you can stir up. Yuanbar Godson crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Ning Hai with interest. From Yuanbar Godson's point of view, he had Ning Hai in the bag, which was why he appeared so calm. Because Ning Hai only increased his aura by burning his blood, his great Tao power would not increase. And the great Tao power in his body was several times more than Ning Hai. Unless Ning Hai could raise his aura to the heaven immortal realm, he would still be a lamb in his hands and could not stir up any waves. Kill. After burning more than half of the war god's body blood in his body, Ning Hai held the mysterious wooden stick and attacked again. Ning Hai was not a fool. He naturally knew that raising his aura at this time was not very useful, so he quietly transferred the energy from burning his blood into the mysterious wooden stick. The wooden stick was made of a special material and could absorb energy. After injecting a large amount of energy, Ning Hai could clearly feel that the mysterious wooden stick's power had increased by at least 10%. Insignificant skill. Facing Ning Hai, who was constantly charging at him, Embark God's son curled his lips and casually threw a punch. For this punch, Embark God's son used all his great Dao power. When fighting with Ning Hai previously, Embark God's son used 6 great Dao powers at most in order to snatch the mysterious wooden stick and not to kill Ning Hai. No matter what, Ning Hai did not belong to him, but to Yi Hong. But now, Embark God's son had decided to use all his strength to kill Ning Hai. As for Yi Hong, he would not think about it for the time being. I will kill Ning Hai. Seeing that Embark God's son had used all his strength, Yi Hong's eyes widened and he could not help but scold. We agreed beforehand that Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan will belong to me, and that mysterious wooden stick will belong to you. Now that you are doing this, you are clearly breaking the promise. Yi Hong was very angry. However, even though he was angry, Divine Son Yi Hong was not going to get involved at this moment. After all, when Embark God's son went crazy, he was still somewhat fearful. I will settle the score with you later. Yi Hong glanced at Embark God's son coldly, then his body moved and charged straight at Mu Yunshan. Yi Hong did not want to wait any longer. If he waited any longer, when Embark God's son was free, he would definitely attack Mu Yunshan. What he needed to do was to snatch Mu Yunshan before Embark God's son got the wooden stick. As for whether or not he should interfere, that would depend on the situation. What are you doing? Although Ning Hai was fighting with Embark God's son with the wooden stick, a part of his attention was on Mu Yunshan. Especially when he saw Yi Hong charging at Mu Yunshan, he was even more furious and wanted to force Embark God's son to retreat and rush over to help. However, how could Embark God's son give him this chance? You better surrender obediently, or both of you will die. Embark God's son punched at Ning Hai's head. Ding! Fortunately, at the critical moment, Ning Hai placed the mysterious wooden stick in front of his head and blocked Embark God's son's punch. If Ning Hai had not reacted in time, Embark God's son's punch alone would have been enough to make his head explode. If you want to blame someone, blame the Supreme Nine Purities Temple for not knowing what's good for you. Just because a few lousy god sons from a high-level plane have descended, you do not listen to my orders. If that is the case, I can only kill everyone from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, then capture you for research. God's son Yi Hong chuckled and stared at Mu Yunshan. If you're smart, then obediently give up resisting. That way, perhaps you'll suffer less. Otherwise, I'll let you know why flowers are so red. Who do you want to let know why the flowers are so red? Chapter 1998. Who is it? The words that traveled into his ears made God Yi Hong's face darken to the extreme. Without a doubt, God Yi Hong had not discovered anyone coming. A martial artist that could hide from his powerful senses was either powerful or had a special concealment technique. Regardless of the situation, it made God Yi Hong furious. If it was powerful, he would definitely chop the other party into pieces. Only then could he vent the hatred in his heart. If it was a special concealment technique, then it was even more necessary to kill the other party. One had to know that special concealment techniques were extremely precious even in a high-level plane. Imagine a fight between two powerful martial artists. One didn't know the other party's cultivation level, but the other party knew everything about one's cultivation level. The disadvantage was instantly revealed. The person who will kill you. What responded to God Yi Hong was an indifferent voice. Humph. Trying to be mysterious. God Yi Hong snorted coldly and then punched towards Mu Yunshan's head. Divine Prince Yi Hong's punch contained the power of 3 great paths. It was obvious that God Yi Hong wanted to use Mu Yunshan as bait to force the martial artist in the void to appear. After all, Mu Yunshan only had 2 great Dao powers. If the martial artist in the void didn't appear, Mu Yunshan would definitely die. Swoosh. Just as God Yi Hong's fist was about to land on Mu Yunshan's head, the void beside Mu Yunshan suddenly exploded. Then, a young martial artist appeared. It's you. Seeing the martial artist that suddenly appeared, God Yi Hong's eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. Without a doubt, God Yi Hong knew the martial artist that suddenly appeared and he was very familiar with him. God Ming. He was from the sacred divine palace, the son of Godming who possessed the power of 5 great Taos. Are you courting death? God Yihong was furious. He thought Godming was the martial artist that spoke just now. Woo woo woo. Seeing God Yihong's expression, Godming hurriedly opened his mouth and wanted to say something. However, his throat was already sealed by Ningyu, causing him to be unable to make a sound. Die. God Yihong couldn't tolerate someone from the sect betraying him. Therefore, he changed the direction of his fist and punched towards Godming. Bang! It was a powerful punch. Son of Godming's head exploded on the spot. After exploding Son Godming's head, Godson Yihong still wasn't satisfied. He executed his trump card and imprisoned Son Godming's primordial spirit and power of the Great Tao, destroying them as well. Godson Yihong was different from Ningyu and Zhao Rui. He couldn't devour the great path power of others. Therefore, he chose to destroy Son Godming's power of the Great Tao. Not good. Just as he killed Godming, Godson Yihong realized that something was amiss and hurriedly retreated. However, Godson Yihong was only thinking of retreating at this moment, so he was obviously slower by half a beat. Beside him, a slightly thin figure suddenly appeared. After this martial artist appeared, without saying a word, he directly punched out. Kai Kai. The friction between his fist and the air produced a sizzling sound. Ningyu. This martial artist was none other than Ningyu. The reason why Ningyu did not attack at the first moment and chose to let Son of Godming take the lead was not because he was afraid of Son of God Yihong, but because he wanted to save Mu Yunshan and attract the attention of Son of God Yuanbar. Otherwise, even if he could heavily injure divine Son Yihong, his mother Mu Yunshan and father Ninghai would also meet with misfortune. Damn it! God's Son Yihong had no choice but to stop. He clenched his right hand into a fist and clashed with the fist in front of him. Bang! The two fists collided, and an extremely crisp sound rang out. Then, Ningyu and Yihong both stepped back at the same time. After the attack, Ningyu's figure flickered and landed beside Mu Yunshan. As for God's Son Yihong, he retreated to God's Son Yuanbar's side. As for Ninghai, he took advantage of Yuanbar God's moment of shock to come to Ningyu's side with the mysterious wooden rod in his hand. Your strength. Ninghai looked at Ningyu with his mouth slightly agape and said in surprise. Ninghai remembered Ningyu very clearly. When he and Ningyu separated, Ningyu's cultivation was only at the human supremacy level. How long had it been? Judging from Ningyu's attack just now, Ningyu's cultivation was at least at the peak of half-step heaven immortal level. Moreover, Ningyu should also have the power of Great Tao. Let's get rid of the trouble in front of us first. Ningyu shook his head gently and asked, what's going on? Why are the people of Sacred Divine Palace and Yuanxia Demon Sect chasing after you? It's all because of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Before Ninghai could answer, Mu Yunshan pointed at the mysterious wooden rod in Ninghai's hand and explained, God's Son Yihong knew that the Supreme Nine Purities Temple had a mysterious wooden rod. In order to get the wooden rod, God's Son Yihong massacred everyone in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Crack crack. Hearing Mu Yunshan's words, Ningyu couldn't help but clench his fists. No matter what, Mu Yunshan was his mother in this life. And God's Son Yihong massacred everyone in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. One could imagine how sad Mu Yunshan must be. After all, the Supreme Nine Purities Temple was the place where Mu Yunshan lived since she was young. Dad, Mom, don't worry. Today, both the people of Sacred Divine Palace and Yuanxia Demon Sect will die. Ningyu took a step forward, and his aura was suddenly unleashed. Rumble. Although Ningyu didn't use the power of Great Tao, the aura he emitted still made the martial artists in front of the 1,000 demons ridge tremble. Is this Mu Yunshan's son? That's right. His Ningyu, Mu Yunshan, and Ninghai's son. Isn't this too exaggerated? At such a young age, his cultivation has actually reached the peak of half-step heaven immortal realm. The peak of half-step heaven immortal realm is secondary. The most important thing is that he has the power of Great Tao, and a lot of it. As God's Son Yihong and God's Son Yuanbar chased after Mu Yunshan and God's Son Yuanbar chased after Ninghai, Many people knew who Mu Yunshan and Ning Hai were. Now, a martial artist suddenly appeared and forced God's Sun Yihong to retreat. Everyone was discussing this. Humph. Feeling the terrifying aura from Ning Yu, God's Sun Yihong and God's Sun Yuanbar snorted at the same time and responded. Without a doubt, God's Sun Yihong and God's Sun Yuanbar released their aura and pressed towards Ningyu without holding back. 9 great Tao powers. Ningyu squinted his eyes and stared at God's Sun Yihong and God's Sun Yuanbar. He thought to himself, if I was still at the great perfection of human immortal realm, my power of great Tao might not be a match for you too. But now that I am a peak of half-step heaven immortal, my power of great Tao has also experienced the power of great Tao. It shouldn't be too much of a problem to deal with the two of you. To be honest. Ever since he advanced to the peak of half-step heaven immortal realm and experienced the baptism of the special power of thunder tribulation, even Ning Yu didn't know how strong he was. Chapter 1999. Divine General Mighty Miracle, Go and Capture Mu Yunshan. Divine Sun Yihong was obviously restless. He was fighting against Ning Yu's aura while ordering Divine General Mighty Miracle to capture Mu Yunshan. In Divine Sun Yihong's opinion, no matter how strong Ning Yu was, he wouldn't be able to protect Mu Yunshan and Ning Hai. However, Divine General Mighty Miracle had 5 great Tao powers. It probably wouldn't take much effort for Divine General Mighty Miracle to fight against Mu Yunshan. Divine General Nanwen, go and capture Ning Hai for me. Divine Sun Yuanbar ordered the middle-aged man behind him when he saw Divine Sun Yihong ordering Divine General Mighty Miracle to attack. Divine General Nanwen was Divine Sun Yuanbar's follower. Relatively speaking, Divine General Nanwen had 1 more great Tao powers than Divine General Mighty Miracle. Divine General Nanwen had a total of 6 great Tao powers. Yes. After receiving Divine Sun Yuanbar's order, Divine General Nanwen leaped up and charged towards Ning Hai. Hey, Ningyu, I want to see if you really have 3 heads and 6 arms. After Divine General Nanwen and Divine General Mighty Miracle attacked, Divine Sun Yuanbar's lips curled up slightly. He stared at Ningyu and said with a sinister smile, "Don't worry, I won't kill your parents so easily. I will slowly kill them by dismembering their flesh piece by piece, bang, bang." Before Divine Sun Yuanbar could finish his words, something unbelievable happened. Divine General Nanwen and Divine General Juling, who had just made a move, were sent flying on the spot and fell heavily on the ground, like dogs eating mud. What's going on? The sudden change not only surprised Divine Sun Yuanbar, but also Divine Sun Yihong and the surrounding experts. Their mouths were slightly agape and their faces were filled with disbelief. Buzz. Divine Sun Yuanbar didn't have to wait for too long. Then, the void split open and several martial artists appeared. The 2 martial artists at the front were Human Demon and Zhao Rui. Behind them were the Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, Zhao Hang and the others. Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, I'll leave those 2 fellows to you. After casually defeating Divine General Na Wen and Divine General Juling, Human Demon waved his hand at Dark Emperor and Ning Lu, saying, when devouring them, remember to be careful. Don't get hurt. Hee, don't worry. Devouring these 2 small shrimps is not a problem at all. The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu snickered, then rushed out in unison. Ever since he passed the Earth Immortal Tribulation, the Dark Emperor had awakened the memories of the heaven-swallowing hound. His strength was comparable to a martial artist with the 6 Tao forces. As for Ning Lu, 6 dark golden branches grew out of his body. With the current strength of the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu, even if Divine General Na Wen and Divine General Juling were not injured, they might not be their match. Moreover, Divine General Na Wen and Divine General Juling were already on the verge of death. Who are you people? Seeing that Divine General Na Wen and Divine General Juling were defeated in an instant, Divine Sun Yihong's expression changed and he shouted in a deep voice, "Why are you going against us? The people who will kill you." The Human Demon and Zhao Rui took a step forward and released their aura. Together with Ning Yu, they crazily pressed towards Divine Sun Yihong and Divine Sun Yuanbar. Crack crack. Originally, Divine Sun Yihong and Divine Sun Yuanbar could still fight against Ning Yu a little. However, After the human demon and Zhao Rui attacked, they were instantly at a disadvantage. Moreover, it was an absolute disadvantage. Divine Sun Mo Tuor, if you don't come out now, when are you going to? Divine Sun Yihong knew how powerful the human demon and Zhao Rui were. He immediately shouted towards the other side. Divine Sun Chenkuan, hurry up and come out. Divine Sun Yuanbar did not stay idle either. He shouted towards the void. Swoosh, swoosh. Just as Divine Sun Yuanbar and Divine Sun Yihong finished their words, the void trembled. Then, two martial artists appeared and landed beside them. They were Divine Sun Mo Tuor from the Demon's Restaurant and Divine Sun Chenkuan from the Transformation Godsec. Mo Chenye, whom Ning Yu had killed previously, was the deputy sect master of the Transformation Godsec. You don't have to say it. I will also attack. Divine Sun Chenkuan stared at Ning Yu as soon as he appeared. He said sinisterly, Ning Yu killed our deputy sect master, Mo Chenye. Our Transformation God sect is already irreconcilable with him. Ning Yu is utterly devoid of conscience. He killed all the people of our Devil's Tavern in the City of Devils, and he even killed the demonic God Sun. Our Devil's Tavern is absolutely irreconcilable with him. Divine Sun Mo Tuor's eyes were cold as he scolded. Until now, Divine Sun Yihong of the Sacred Divine Palace, Divine Sun Yuanbar of the Primordial Demon Sect, Divine Sun Mo Tuor of the Demon's Restaurant, and Divine Sun Chenkuan of the Transformation God Sect. The top-notch divine princes of the four major forces all stood against Ning Yu. Ning Yu should be finished. I think so too. He offended the Sacred Divine Palace, the Primordial Demon Sect, the Demon's Restaurant, and the Transformation God Sect at the same time. Even a heaven immortal would not be able to survive. Since Ning Yu dared to offend these four forces, do you think he has offended other forces as well? Swoosh. The last martial artist's words made everyone's heart skip a beat. They quickly looked at Ning Yu. That's right. With Ning Yu's strong performance, he might have offended other forces as well. Those who are not involved, please leave. Ning Yu's gaze swept the surroundings as he spoke indifferently. Due to the appearance of Divine Sun Chenkuan and Divine Sun Mo Tuor, Ning Yu and Divine Sun Yihong withdrew their auras tacitly. Ning Yu knew very well that there were definitely more enemies in this area. Instead of waiting for him to be ambushed while fighting with Divine Sun Yihong and the others, he might as well call out all his enemies first. If Ning Yu was alone, Ning Yu would not have dared to do so. But now that human demon and Zhao Rui had appeared, he was full of confidence. After all, be it human demon or Zhao Rui, their combat abilities were similar to his. Whoosh. Ning Yu's words directly caused the surrounding martial artists to step back one after another. It didn't take long for Ning Yu's position to be completely empty. Still not coming out. Ning Yu squinted his eyes and said to the void behind Divine Sun Yihong. Buzz. As soon as Ning Yu said that, the void behind Divine Sun Yihong cracked and a young martial artist appeared. Divine Sun Gui Wu. Seeing the martial artist behind him, Divine Sun Yihong's expression changed and he exclaimed. Divine Sun Yihong had no idea that there was a martial artist hiding behind him. At the moment, Divine Sun Yihong was still a little scared. If Divine Sun Gui Wu had attacked him secretly, he would have died for sure. One should know that Divine Sun Gui Wu was the peerless divine son of Fallen Spirit sect. Although he only had 9 great path powers, he was much stronger than him. Fallen Spirit sect's counterpart in Immortal Spirit region was Corpse Sect. Corpse Sect was an orthodoxy of Divine Sun Gui Wu in Immortal Spirit region. Most of the martial artists in it were Divine Sun Gui Wu's servants. Your body is very strong. You should be able to make an excellent puppet. Chapter 2000. Ning Yu wasn't surprised by the appearance of the Divine Prince. Instead, he was very calm. Ning Yu moved his eyes away from the Divine Prince and looked to the other side. Did he notice me? Sensing Ning Yu's gaze, the Divine Prince, who was hiding in the sky, shuddered. He couldn't help but feel surprised. In fact, the Divine Prince had arrived not long after Ning Yu arrived. In other words, The Divine Prince had witnessed the fight between Ningyu and Divine Prince Yi Hong. Although the Divine Prince thought that Ningyu's strength was powerful, he wasn't too worried. In Tianlong's opinion, he was more powerful than Ningyu. However, Ningyu seemed to have noticed his presence, which made him look extremely serious. One had to know that his ability to conceal his aura was something that even some ordinary heavenly immortals might not be able to discover. The fact that Ningyu could find him was enough to prove that Ningyu was not simple. Was it just my imagination? The Divine Prince frowned, a bit confused. Because Ningyu's gaze didn't stay on him for too long before he turned to the other side. Chem. Another old man in another void space was just as confused as Divine Prince Tianlong. The five-fingered deity. The five-fingered deity had come with the Divine Prince. The five-fingered deity had wanted to kill the Divine Prince right away. However, there were many powerful cultivators in the Thousand Demons Ridge. The five-fingered deity was afraid that he would be surrounded, so he chose to wait. After all, everyone knew that he was a sky immortal. Once he was exposed, the consequences would be unimaginable. How dare you? While the Divine Prince and the five-fingered deity were confused, a cold snort was suddenly heard in the area. Without a doubt. The one who had snorted was the Divine Prince Gui Wu. The Divine Prince Gui Wu was extremely angry. Divine Prince Yi Hong from the Sacred Divine Palace, Divine Prince Yuanbar from the Primeval Demon Sect, and Divine Prince Chenkuan from the God Transformation Sect were all weaker than him. He thought that after he appeared, Ningyu would definitely kneel and beg him for mercy as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Who would have thought that Ningyu wouldn't even look at him? How could Divine Child Gui Wu endure such a situation? Whoosh. Therefore, after a cold snort, God-Child Gui Wu stomped his feet on the ground and charged forward. Kai Kai. God-Child Gui Wu did not hold back this time and used his full strength. He wrapped the power of 9 great paths around his wrist and blasted it out. Should we attack? Divine Prince Yi Hong frowned and asked after seeing Divine Prince Gui Wu attacking like a madman. There's no need. Let's wait a little longer. Divine Sun Yuan Ba shook his head and said, Divine Sun Gui Wu is very strong. Let him test out Ningyu first. Actually, Ningyu isn't our main opponent. Divine Prince Chenkuan's face was solemn as he said in a low voice, our opponents should be the old man and the young woman beside Ningyu. Divine Prince Chenkuan was very clear about this. The pressure that the human demon and Zhao Rui gave him was too great, even greater than the pressure that Ningyu gave him. Therefore, Divine Prince Chenkuan's attention was on the human demon and Zhao Rui from the beginning. As for Ningyu, he would let Divine Prince Gui Wu deal with him. Boom. In the blink of an eye, Ningyu and Divine Prince Gui Wu were fighting. The two fists collided and the sky and earth cracked. A small vortex appeared in the void. Whoosh. Whoosh. After the attack, Ningyu and Divine Prince Gui Wu retreated several steps at the same time. Judging from the distance, Ningyu's strength was on par with Divine Prince Gui Wu. However, as the person involved, Divine Prince Gui Wu knew very well. He was at a disadvantage in this attack. There's something strange about his Grand Dao power. Divine Prince Gui Wu stared at Ningyu with a dark face. Divine Prince Gui Wu wasn't stupid. He knew that Ningyu had used the Grand Dao power. However, Ningyu had only used 1 Grand Dao power and he had forced back 9 Grand Dao powers. Divine Prince Gui Wu had never heard of such a thing before. Did he merge the Grand Dao power? Suddenly, the divine son of Gui Wu seemed to have thought of something. His already ugly expression turned even colder. Theoretically, only a few peerless geniuses could merge the Grand Dao power. In mid-sized territories, even the top 3 martial artists on the longevity roll might not be able to do it. Divine Prince Gui Wu himself could merge the Grand Dao power, but he only managed to do so a little. The terrifying merging ability that Ningyu had displayed shocked him. Because being able to merge the Grand Dao power meant that he could devour it. I must kill him and extract his memories. Divine Prince Gui Wu made up his mind to kill Ningyu and extract his memories. Devouring the Grand Dao power was too terrifying. Ordinary martial artists could only let the Grand Dao power increase as they wished, but they couldn't merge them. In other words, Ordinary martial artists could only have 10 grand Dao power at most before they reached the Sky Immortal level. Any more and they would trigger the Sky Immortal Tribulation. But martial artists that could devour the power of the Great Path were different. They could compress the power of the Great Path, constantly compressing it so that they could maintain the power of the Great Path at 9 or even 10. Divine Prince Gui Wu, do you need our help? Divine Prince Yi Hong asked when he saw that Divine Prince Gui Wu had stopped attacking. You three watch over the others. Leave Ning Yu to me. Divine Son Gui Wu turned around and glared at Divine Son Yi Hong. Then, he turned into a blur and disappeared in an instant. Buzz. As soon as Divine Prince Gui Wu disappeared, he reappeared in front of Ningyu. Another fist imbued with the power of the Great Path blasted toward Ningyu. Here you go. However, just as Ningyu was about to fight Divine Prince Gui Wu, Ning Hai suddenly threw the mysterious wooden rod at him. Smack. Ningyu's mind stirred and he hurriedly grabbed the mysterious wooden stick. Whoosh. As soon as he grabbed the mysterious wooden rod, Ningyu felt a terrifying suction force devouring the energy in his body. My mysterious wooden rod. Ningyu clearly didn't expect this. He quickly tried to throw the mysterious wooden rod away. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't throw it away. Ha ha ha, die. Divine Prince Gui Wu couldn't help but laugh when he saw Ningyu trapped by the mysterious wooden rod. Me. Isn't it too early to be happy? Ningyu snorted. Then, he controlled the heavenly tribulation liquid in his storage ring and poured it into the mysterious wooden rod. Buzz. Buzz. As the heavenly tribulation liquid was poured in, the mysterious wooden rod vibrated slightly. Moreover, the vibrations became more and more obvious and intense. In the end, the mysterious wooden rod even broke free from Ningyu's control and attacked Divine Prince Gui Wu. This. Chapter 2001. The reason Ningyu was confused was that he had injected the heavenly tribulation fluid into the mysterious wooden stick with the attitude of giving it a try. To his surprise, the heavenly tribulation fluid really worked. Ningyu could clearly see that there were two terrifying energies in the mysterious wooden stick. One of them was the heavenly tribulation fluid he had just injected into the wooden stick. The heavenly tribulation fluid only stayed in the mysterious wooden stick for a few seconds before turning into terrifying energy. The speed of the transformation shocked Ningyu. As for the other terrifying energy, Ningyu guessed that it was unique to the mysterious wooden stick. Neither of the two energies were weak. In terms of power, they could go up against a martial artist with 8 Dao powers. What the hell? God Son Gui Wu's face darkened as he looked at the mysterious wooden stick that kept charging at him. Godchild Gui Wu knew very well the power of the mysterious wooden stick. Ning Hai, a martial artist with 5 Dao powers, could go up against God's son Yuanbar head-on with the mysterious wooden stick. Now that the mysterious wooden stick was in Ningyu's hands, how could it be weak? Block it. But at this point, God's son Gui Wu could no longer back down. He wrapped all the power of the Great Path around his wrist and punched the mysterious wooden stick with a backhand. Swoosh. Swoosh. However, as soon as God's son Gui Wu punched, 2 cold rays shot out from the mysterious wooden stick. Left with no other choice, God's son Gui Wu punched again. Bang. Bang. 2 punches, 2 cold rays. 2 crisp sounds were heard. Ah. Then, the divine child Gui Wu screamed like a pig being slaughtered. My hand. God's son Gui Wu retreated quickly and looked at his left hand, screaming hysterically. Just now, God's son Gui Wu's right hand went against the energy of the heavenly tribulation fluid. His left hand went against the energy of the mysterious wooden stick. The result was obvious. Only one bone in God's son Gui Wu's right hand was broken, but his left hand was completely broken. SSS. The surrounding cultivators couldn't help but gasp when they saw the godchild's miserable state. What exactly is that wooden stick? Why is it so strong? It should be a heavenly treasure. Divine Prince Gui Wu is the peerless divine prince of the fallen spirits sect. He has 9 Dao powers in his body. The wooden stick that can injure him must be at least a heavenly treasure, or even higher. Many martial artists discussed among themselves. Among them, the hearts of divine princes Yi Hong, Yuanba, and Chen sank to the bottom. Ning Yu didn't even make a move. He only used the mysterious wooden stick to injure Gui Wu Shizi easily. If Ning Yu had the mysterious wooden stick, how powerful would he be? Do you still want to make a move? Divine Sun Yi Hong approached Divine Sun Yuanba and Divine Sun Chen and asked in a low voice. No one who could become a peerless divine prince of a major force was a fool. God's Sun Yi Hong had already made up his mind. If he saw that the situation was not good, he would escape immediately. Although this was a little embarrassing, it was better than losing his life. Humph. We will definitely make a move, but not now. Divine Sun Yuanba grunted. He was a little different from Divine Sun Yi Hong. Divine Sun Yuanba had a bad temper. It was impossible for him to be scared before the battle. We have to make a move. Divine Sun Chen suggested solemnly, what I mean is to capture Ning Yu's parents and make Ning Yu hesitate. Good idea. Divine Sun Yuanba and Divine Sun Yi Hong exclaimed at the same time. Divine Sun Chen was right. As long as they could capture Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan, Ning Yu would definitely hesitate. By then, wouldn't Ning Yu be able to do whatever he wanted? Divine Sun Yuanba, go and stop that old man. Divine Sun Yi Hong, go and stop that young lady. Divine Sun Chen pointed at the human demon and Zhao Rui and said, why us? Divine Sun Yuanba and Divine Sun Yi Hong looked a little upset. Everyone knew that the human demon and Zhao Rui were extremely powerful. It was obviously a tough job to fight against the human demon and Zhao Rui. Because the two of you are stronger than me. Divine Sun Chen said and gave a reason that Divine Sun Yuanba and Divine Sun Yi Hong couldn't refuse. Swoosh. Moreover, Divine Sun Chen chose to act first and report later. Without waiting for Divine Sun Yuanba and Divine Sun Yi Hong's agreement, he dashed towards Ning Hai. Damn it. Divine Sun Yuanba and Divine Sun Yi Hong had no choice but to attack the human demon and Zhao Rui. Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, you two watch them. Seeing Divine Sun Yuanba and Divine Sun Yi Hong approaching him, the human demon twisted his neck and ordered the Dark Emperor and Divine Sun Yi Hong. Then, he dashed towards them. Swoosh. Zhao Rui didn't stay idle after seeing the human demon rush out. She also attacked. Although the human demon was strong, he couldn't defeat Divine Sun Yuanba and Divine Sun Yi Hong by himself. After all, Divine Sun Yuanba and Divine Sun Yi Hong both had the power of 9 Great Paths Boom. A great battle broke out. However, it was obvious that the battle here wasn't the main battlefield. On the other side, Ning Yu was already fighting with Divine Sun Gui Wu with the mysterious wooden stick in his hand. Although Divine Sun Gui Wu's left hand was broken, his strength didn't decrease too much. Who are you? Which faction are you from? Divine Sun Gui Wu became more and more surprised as the battle went on. Divine Sun Gui Wu had met many peerless geniuses in the high-level planes. It could be said that none of the geniuses Divine Sun Gui Wu had met were as strong as Ning Yu. Divine Sun Gui Wu suspected Ning Yu's identity. He thought that Ning Yu wasn't a native of the immortal spirit state but came from a high-level plane like him. Which faction I come from doesn't seem to have much to do with you. Ning Yu held the mysterious wooden stick and smashed it at Divine Sun Gui Wu's head again. Ning Yu didn't choose to use the red demon sword. He thought that he could defeat Divine Sun Gui Wu with the mysterious wooden stick. As for the red demon sword, he would use it later. Go to hell. Divine Sun Gui Wu snarled. He moved slightly to the side and avoided Ning Yu's wooden stick attack. Then, Divine Sun Gui Wu took out his Dharma treasure, a real heavenly treasure flying sword. Ding! However, the mysterious wooden stick arrived in front of him as soon as Divine Sun Gui Wu took out the flying sword. Divine Sun Gui Wu had no choice but to put the flying sword in front of him to block the wooden stick's attack. Crack! Dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. In the face of the mysterious wooden stick, Ghost Mist Shenz's flying sword couldn't even hold on for a second before it was smashed to pieces. My heavenly treasure! Divine Sun Gui Wu yelled. A heavenly treasure flying sword was broken by a wooden stick just like that. Divine Son Gui Wu couldn't believe it and didn't want to believe it. Chapter 2002. Humph. You're about to lose your life and you're still thinking about your heavenly treasure. Ningyu grunted and dashed out again with the mysterious wooden stick in his hand. Hit the snake where it hurts, don't hold back. Ningyu didn't want to give Divine Prince Gui Wu any chance. After all, Divine Prince Gui Wu had the power of 9 grand paths. A peerless genius like him would make you regret it if you gave him the slightest chance. I don't believe this broken wooden stick can still unleash such a powerful attack. Divine Prince Gui Wu threw away the broken heavenly treasure flying sword in his hand and chose to fight the mysterious wooden stick with his fist. Essence Chi, Grand Path Power, Soul Power, Primordial Spirit, Divine Prince Gui Wu transferred almost everything he could use to his right hand. Because this attack was related to Divine Prince Gui Wu's life. If he blocked it, he could follow up with another attack and defeat Ningyu. If he couldn't, he would become Ningyu's prisoner and be at Ningyu's mercy. Block it. Divine Prince Gui Wu clenched his right fist and punched the mysterious wooden stick. Go. Ningyu knew the importance of this attack. The Grand Path power in his body surged and wrapped around the surface of the mysterious wooden stick, attacking together with it. Even though Ningyu knew this attack was important, he still didn't want to inject the Grand Path power into the wooden stick. After all, he could still remember the speed at which the Grand Path power absorbed the thunder liquid. What if the mysterious wooden stick couldn't absorb it? Who could he reason with? I wonder who will win between Ningyu and Divine Prince Gui Wu. Divine Prince Tian Long frowned in the air. Before Ningyu and Divine Prince Gui Wu fought, Divine Prince Tian Long thought highly of Divine Prince Gui Wu. But as the fight went on, Divine Prince Tian Long changed his mind and thought that Ningyu would win. However, because this attack was so important, Divine Prince Gui Wu had used almost all his trump cards, so Divine Prince Tian Long wasn't sure who would win. I must get the mysterious wooden stick. The five-finger deity and god son Tian Long were focused on different things. He didn't care who would win between Ningyu and god son Gui Wu. All he cared about was the mysterious wooden stick in Ningyu's hand. As a Sky Immortal expert, Five-Fingered Immortal naturally knew how terrifying the mysterious wooden stick was. Although he wasn't certain of the quality of the mysterious wooden stick, he felt that it was at least at the peak of the heavenly treasure level. Moreover, it was extremely likely that it had reached the level of a dark treasure. After all, the mysterious wooden stick had easily split the Divine Prince's heavenly treasure in half. Under the watchful eyes of tens of thousands, the mysterious wooden stick collided with Godchild Gui Wu's right hand. Catcher. As soon as the two collided, a crisp sound rang out. Ah! Then, the divine child screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Without a doubt, this attack ended with the Divine Prince Gui Wu's defeat. Shio. Ningyu wasn't going to give the Divine Prince any chance. He dashed forward with the mysterious wooden stick in his hand and smashed it at the Divine Prince's head. Ningyu's goal was to kill the Divine Prince. As for the Grand Dao power inside the Divine Prince, Ningyu didn't think too much about it. It would be good if he could devour it, but he wouldn't be upset if he couldn't. Bang! Since the Divine Prince Gui Wu was fatally injured, he couldn't do anything about Ningyu's attack. The sound of the wooden stick hitting the Divine Prince's head echoed in the area. Even if I die, I'll drag someone down with me. The Divine Prince Gui Wu roared and was about to explode his Grand Dao power. Shio, shio, shio. However, as soon as the Divine Child Gui Wu unleashed the power of the Grand Dao in his body, a terrifying devouring power came from the mysterious wooden stick before he could even self-destruct. Without a doubt, the 9 Grand Dao powers inside the Divine Prince Gui Wu's body were all devoured by the mysterious wooden stick. Gulp! Seeing the actions of the mysterious wooden stick, even Ningyu couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Terrifying. Extremely terrifying. It was extremely terrifying. What exactly was the mysterious wooden stick? First, he easily defeated Divine Prince Gui Wu. Then, he devoured Divine Prince Gui Wu's 9 Dao powers. That alone showed that the mysterious wooden stick was no weaker than a real heavenly treasure. Mom, where did you get this wooden stick? Ningyu turned to Mu Yunshan and asked as he watched the divine child of Gui Wu get devoured into a pile of skin. This mysterious wooden stick was left behind by your grandpa. Mu Yunshan thought for a while and said, actually, when your grandpa left the mysterious wooden stick, he left behind a message. What message? Ningyu was confused. The peerless divine metal will sweep the world, Mu Yunshan said. The peerless divine metal? Ningyu's eyes widened, and his face was filled with disbelief. He had fought with the wooden stick for so long, but he didn't know that it was actually made of divine metal and not wood. Bang! 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 While Ningyu was still feeling ashamed of his ignorance, the battle on the other side was coming to an end. The human demon and Zhao Rui teamed up to fight against Divine Prince Yi Hong, Divine Prince Yuanba and Divine Prince Chen Kuan. It looked like an unequal confrontation, but in reality, the human demon and Zhao Rui had a crushing victory. Didn't you say you were going to catch Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan? Divine Prince Yuanba and Divine Prince Yi Hong struggled to get up from the ground and stared at Divine Prince Chen Kuan. Why did you come back halfway? To be honest, Divine Prince Yuanba and Divine Prince Yi Hong were furious. The human demon and Zhao Rui didn't choose to attack Divine Prince Chen Kuan. But who would have thought that Divine Prince Chen Kuan would give up on Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan and fight against the human demon and Zhao Rui with them? Did you think I wanted to? Divine Prince Yuanba and Divine Prince Yi Hong were angry, but so was Divine Prince Chen Kuan. Everything seemed to be proceeding in an orderly manner. Divine Prince Yuanba and Divine Prince Yi Hong worked together to stop the human demon and Zhao Rui. He went to catch Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan. But just as he was about to get close to Ning Hai, a terrifying pressure suddenly pressed down on him from the void. The pressure made Divine Prince Chen Kuan's heart palpitate. A sky immortal. Divine Prince Chen Kuan was absolutely right. Even if the martial artist who had released the pressure on him wasn't a sky immortal, it had to be an expert with 10 Dao powers. What should we do with them? The human demon glanced at Divine Prince Chen Kuan and the other two, then looked at Ningyu and asked. Kill them. Ningyu didn't hesitate at all. The only way to deal with such people was to kill them. As for controlling them, Ningyu wouldn't do anything stupid. It was fine to control a martial artist like Divine Prince Wuji who only had 1 or 2 Dao powers. But to control a martial artist with 9 Dao powers, unless Ningyu's strength was doubled, it would only be a burden. You can't kill us. Chapter 2003. Do you really think you can break the seal in front of the 1000 Demons Ridge with just the few of you? Ningyu glanced at Divine Son Chen Kuan and said faintly, you guys aren't the only ones here. After I kill all of you, there will be others who will be willing to break the seal in front of the myriad Demons Ridge with me. Divine Son of Heaven's face darkened after hearing Ningyu's words. He was even trembling all over. Anyone would be afraid in the face of death. Divine Son of Heaven was no exception. He desperately wanted to live on. As long as you don't kill me, I can tell you a secret. Divine Son of Heaven secretly glanced at Divine Son Yi Hong and Divine Son Yuanba and then said to Ningyu using soul telepathy. Oh, tell me about it. Ningyu raised his eyebrows and asked. The reason why Ningyu didn't choose to kill Divine Son of Heaven and Earth right away was because he knew that there were still a few peerless experts hiding in the void. He had just gone through a huge battle and was not in his peak condition. If he continued to fight, he would inevitably be injured. Therefore, he decided to wait and see. He would talk to Divine Son of Heaven and Earth while resting. Zhao Rui and the human demon did the same. They had already closed their eyes and started to rest. We are just the vanguard. There will be even more powerful martial artists coming later. Divine Son of Heaven took a deep breath and explained, the key to their arrival is a teleportation array in the 1000 Demons Ridge. Divine Son of Heaven continued after seeing that Ningyu didn't say anything. According to the agreement, Divine Son Yi Hong and Divine Son Yuanba will be responsible for opening the teleportation array. The rest will be responsible for stopping the martial artists from entering the 1000 Demons Ridge. Ning Yu frowned and murmured, "Interesting. Can you let me go now?" Divine Son of Heaven asked carefully when he saw Ning Yu frown. Divine Son of Heaven thought that if he told Ning Yu such an important news, Ning Yu would let him go. However, Divine Prince Chenkuan had lost his mind. Even a 3-year-old child would not have such an idea. Divine Prince Chenkuan was the peerless divine prince of the God Transformation sect, but he was still confused. One had to admit that he must have been out of his mind. "Kill God Sun Yihong and God Sun Yuanbar and I can let you go." Ning Yu's expression was indifferent, without the slightest trace of emotion. This, Divine Son of Heaven opened his mouth slightly. Apparently, he did not expect Ning Yu to ask him to do this. For a moment, Divine Prince Chenkuan was in a dilemma. To be honest, in the battle just now, he was the one with the least injuries. With his current strength, it was not impossible for him to kill Divine Sun Yihong and Divine Sun Yuanbar. However, he was a little worried. After all, what if Ning Yu still didn't let him go after he killed Yihong and Yuanbar God? Wouldn't he become everyone's target then? Not only would he not survive, but he would also implicate the entire deity transformation sect. One should know that in a high-level plane, the deity transformation sect was just a small sect compared to the sacred divine palace and the primordial demon sect. As long as the sacred divine palace or the primordial demon sect sent a sky immortal, they could easily destroy the deity transformation sect. Dilemma. Divine Prince Chenkuan was in a dilemma. "It's fine if you don't want to. I won't force you." Ning Yu shrugged, indicating that he didn't care what Divine Prince Chenkuan did. After all, his conversation with Divine Prince Chenkuan was purely to kill time. All right, I'm willing." Ning Yu's words were like a thorn that stabbed into Divine Prince Chenkuan's heart, making it hard for him to breathe. In order to survive, Divine Prince Chenkuan immediately dashed out and launched a powerful attack at Divine Sun Yuanbar and Divine Sun Yihong. "Is your brain rusty?" Divine Sun Yuanbar and Divine Sun Yihong widened their eyes when they saw Divine Prince Chenkuan rushing towards them. They would never have imagined that Divine Prince Chenkuan would dare to attack them. After all, the deity transformation sect that Divine Prince Chenkuan came from was just a small sect. "I hope you don't blame me." Divine Prince Chenkuan's face was fierce. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived in front of Divine Sun Yuanbar and Divine Sun Yihong. Divine Prince Chenkuan clenched his fists and threw 2 punches. One was aimed at Divine Sun Yuanbar and the other at Divine Sun Yihong. "You're courting death." Divine Sun Yuanbar's eyes widened. He threw a punch and it collided with Divine Prince Chenkuan's fist. On the other side, Divine Sun Yihong also threw a punch. Crack, crack, crack. 3 crisp sounds rang out consecutively. Soon after, 3 figures were sent flying like kites with their strings cut. "Ning Yu, do you think they'll play tricks?" The human demon had already opened his eyes when Divine Prince Chenkuan attacked. At that moment, the human demon stared at the battlefield and frowned. "Each of them has 9 great path powers. I'm afraid something might happen." In fact, the human demon's worry wasn't unreasonable. If the 3 of them still had trump cards, the consequences would be unimaginable. "It's fine." However, Ning Yu didn't care about the human demon's worries. After a few minutes of recuperation, he had completely recovered to his peak state. Moreover, the reason why Ning Yu was so calm was that the mysterious wooden stick had given him some feedback. In short, he could already use the mysterious wooden stick. The power of the mysterious wooden stick was self-evident. With the mysterious wooden stick in hand, Ning Yu was confident that he could fight against a martial artist with 10 great path powers. "Your strength now," seeing Ning Yu's confident look, Zhao Rui couldn't help but ask. Before Ning Yu fought with Divine Sun Gui Wu, Zhao Rui felt that Ning Yu's strength should be able to fight against a martial artist with 9 great path powers. But now, Zhao Rui couldn't see through Ning Yu's strength. "I'm not sure about the specifics." Ning Yu shook his head and said, "But if I fight with Divine Sun Gui Wu again, I should be able to defeat him easily. Run." While Ning Yu was still talking to Zhao Rui, what the human demon was worried about happened. Divine Sun Chenkuan, Divine Sun Yuanbar, and Divine Sun Yihong immediately betrayed them and started running in 3 different directions. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 3 silhouettes left after-images in midair and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Where do you think you're going? The human demon's expression changed when he saw Divine Sun Chenkuan and the others running away. He wanted to stop them. Let me. Ningyu grabbed the human demon and waved the mysterious wooden stick in his hand. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 rays of cold light shot out of the mysterious wooden stick and into the air. Fart, fart, fart. As soon as the cold light entered the air, the sound of 3 people spitting out blood was heard. Then, 3 figures fell from the void and landed heavily on the ground. Swoosh. Chapter 2004. This time, Ningyu did not intend to hold back. Since he had recovered to his peak, Ningyu would not allow Divine Sun Chenkuan and the others to continue messing around. Ningyu's idea was simple. He would first kill Divine Sun Chenkuan and the others, then slowly deal with the martial artists hiding in the void. Otherwise, he would have to take care of everything. Buzz. However, before Ningyu could reach Divine Sun Chenkuan and the others, the void shook. Then, an afterimage shot out from the void. Oh no! The sudden change caused the human demon and Zhao Rui's expressions to change. The 2 of them didn't think too much and hurriedly flashed out and blocked in front of Ningyu. At that moment, even a pig would know that the martial artist who came out of the void was targeting Ningyu. At that moment, Ningyu's attention was almost entirely focused on Divine Sun Chenkuan and the others. How could he spare any attention to deal with the martial artist in the void? Human demon and Zhao Rui stopped the martial artist to buy time for Ningyu. After all, in their opinion, with Ningyu's current strength, killing the heavily injured Divine Sun Chenkuan and the others would be as easy as pie. Finally making a move. This time, human demon and Zhao Rui had obviously underestimated Ningyu. Although most of Ningyu's attention was on Divine Sun Chenkuan and the others, he still noticed the martial artist who came out of the void. Ningyu did not make a fuss just because a martial artist came out of the void. Instead, he looked a little serious. This was because Ningyu knew very well that there was more than one martial artist hiding in the void. The one who made a move now was not the strongest one. Whoosh, whoosh. In the blink of an eye, human demon and Zhao Rui fought with the martial artist who came out of the void. The result was a little out of Ningyu's expectations. In just one move, human demon and Zhao Rui were sent flying. They spat out a mouthful of blood and their auras began to drop. Crack, crack, catcher. Ningyu wanted to observe for a while longer and let the human demon and Zhao Rui hold on for a few more minutes. However, the current situation had put a stop to his plan of devouring Shundi Chenkuan and the others. He smashed his rod 3 times on the heads of Shundi Chenkuan and the others. 3 crisp sounds rang out consecutively. The heads of Divine Sun Chenkuan, Divine Sun Yuanba and Divine Sun Yihong exploded on the spot. Without a doubt. The primordial spirits of Divine Prince Chenkuan and the others, as well as the power of the Grand Path, were all sucked into the mysterious wooden stick. Shio. As for Ningyu, he turned around and charged towards another battlefield. Humph. Merely 2 pieces of trash, and you're delusional enough to stop me. The Divine Prince of Tianlong was in high spirits at the moment. His strength wasn't something Divine Prince Gui Wu and Divine Prince Chenkuan could compare with. In your next life, you'd better open your eyes wide before you act. There are some people you can't afford to offend. Godson Tianlong snorted, then lifted his right leg and kicked at the human demon and Zhao Rui. As the peerless Divine Prince of the Heaven Secret Sect, Godson Tianlong had his pride. Since he had the Divine Fate Stone, the overall strength of the Divine Son of Tianlong was enough to compete with a martial artist with 10 Dao powers. Although the human demon and Zhao Rui were not weak, they would still be weaker than a martial artist with 10 Grand Path powers. Really? However, before Godson Tianlong's right leg landed on the human demon and Zhao Rui, he heard an indifferent voice. I've been waiting for you. Godson Tianlong's real target was obviously Ningyu. Therefore, as soon as he heard Ningyu's words, He immediately gave up on attacking the human demon and Zhao Rui and kicked at Ningyu with his right leg. Kill. Ningyu looked indifferent as he held the mysterious wooden stick and smashed it down. I knew you'd use the mysterious wooden stick. Seeing the mysterious wooden stick coming at him, the divine prince of Tianlong quickly stepped aside and retreated. The mysterious wooden stick could even break a heavenly treasure, let alone the right leg of godson Tianlong. The godson Tianlong knew his limits. He knew he couldn't withstand the mysterious wooden stick, so he chose to step back. No. As soon as the godson Tianlong stepped back, Ningyu realized something was wrong. The reason was that Ningyu found that the body of the godson Tianlong was becoming more and more illusory, luring the tiger away from the mountain. In a blink, Ningyu knew what the godson Tianlong was up to. He attacked the human demon and Zhao Rui first to attract his attention and make him neglect Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan on the other side. Finally, he used the golden cicada shedding shell to move to the other side to catch Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan. Ningyu looked gloomy. This was his mistake. If the godson Tianlong succeeded, he would be under the control of the godson Tianlong. After all, he couldn't leave Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan alone. Swish. Swish. Just as Ningyu was doing his best to return the favor, two figures stood out. The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu. They had been protecting Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan. Now that the godson Tianlong suddenly launched an attack, they had to defend with all their strength. Bang! Bang! However, no matter how much the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu used their trump cards, they were no match for the godson Tianlong. Without any suspense, the two of them flew out on the spot and fell heavily to the ground. Swish! However, although the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu couldn't even withstand one attack, they bought enough time for Ningyu. Ningyu used his speed to the maximum and finally arrived before the godson Tianlong caught Ning Hai and Mu Yunshan. Go to hell! Ningyu injected his essence qi into the mysterious wooden stick and smashed it at the godson Tianlong's head. This, Ningyu's attack made the five-fingered deity, who was hiding in the sky, open his mouth. He felt a great pressure. It was no exaggeration. Even the five-fingered deity might not be able to withstand Ningyu's attack. I have to get the mysterious wooden stick. The five-fingered deity's desire to get his hands on the mysterious wooden stick became even stronger. Until now, the five-fingered deity could basically confirm that the mysterious wooden stick was at least a half-mystic treasure. There were two types of half-mystic treasures. One had Shen deity Dharma laws in its body, while the other was as hard as a mystic treasure. Regardless of what sort of situation it might be, the mysterious wooden stick's enticement to the five-fingered immortal was simply unprecedented. However, the five-fingered deity wasn't as stupid as the godson Tianlong, so he wouldn't act like a fool. He was stronger than the godson Tianlong, so he could see more clearly than the godson Tianlong. There were many powerful figures hiding in front of the Thousand Demons Ridge. Why didn't the real big shots make a move? Instead, they let Divine Prince Chengkuan and Divine Prince Gui Wu mess around. Apparently, everyone was restraining each other. No one wanted to act rashly without absolute confidence. After all, if they failed, they might end up helping others. No one wanted to do this kind of business that was sure to lose money and no profit. Crack. On the battlefield. At the most dangerous moment, the godson Tianlong moved his body slightly and dodged Ningyu's fatal attack. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.